as parents, one thing you should be mindful of, by you hitting your children, you may lead to them then being people who then end up hitting their children.
There was a time where my son's put me on the spot because I said something which I shouldn't have. Then he goes, Dad, can I talk to you? What's up?
Yeah.
And then he goes, no.
You step into my office, yeah.
So I walked out, went into the corridor. He goes, that I didn't like.
As they get older, now this then becomes a whole different scenario. I would even go as far as saying, forget the parent-child relationship.
So our sins affect the ummah as a whole. What's happening in Palestine? Our sins. Don't think, if me and you go out today, we listen to music, we go do zina, we do some of the haram, may Allah protect us, we're having an effect on the ummah as a whole. If it goes that far out, you think it's not going to affect you in your own house?
But honestly, like if you want a blueprint, if you want to really look at the intricacy and the depth of how to bring up children, whether it's discipline or anything else, you just got to look at the blueprint of Islam. It's done. It's there for us, you know.
And as long as we, as especially the fathers, are living by these principles, the children will follow you.
The idea behind this podcast, The Founding Fathers, came about from a conversation I had with a particular brother. It became apparent that one of the things that you need to excel in fatherhood is a network of other fathers. And if you can't find one offline, we're here to provide one for you online. But the benefits of a network aren't just limited to fatherhood. They apply to business, personal life, marital relationships, fatherhood also. And it's with that spirit in mind that we set up The Cave, our private exclusive network for 7 to 9 figure Muslim entrepreneurs, investors, and C-suite executives. Whether you're looking for exclusive investment opportunities, strategic partnerships, deals, connections, advice, personal life, business life, health, whatever it might be, The Cave is the place for you. If you're interested in applying for The Cave, you can click the link in the description to book a call with one of our team members. With that said, hopefully I'll see you on the other side. Let's get straight back into the podcast, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum. Dr. Imran, you've mentioned quite a few times that you experienced physical discipline growing up. I want to ask you, do you feel like it worked?
It depends what the objective was, wasn't it? If I'm honest with you, the person disciplining is the person who sets the objective of what they're trying to do. And oftentimes it's something I say to a lot of parents, you know, alhamdulillah, through my recent work, you know, speaking to couples, parenting is something that you inevitably talk about. You know, it comes up and you get a sense of what kind of parents these people are. Then it kind of feeds back into what kind of person they are and how they kind of do as a couple, etc. But one thing I always look at is, what's the objective of their discipline? What are they trying to achieve? You know, for some parents, they're simply just trying to scare the child. They're not really interested in a long-term outcome. They just want to stop the child doing what they're doing in that moment. And they're not actually thinking about, okay, what if this happens again? You know, is there going to be any secondary trauma from the way I'm dealing with this thing? Why is the child doing what it's doing? You know, oftentimes some of the naughtiest children are the ones that I'm most concerned about. You know, I saw it in myself, definitely. You know, as you asked, did it work? I definitely saw this. And I want to look back now, you know, I did a lot of therapy last year, you know, and for myself, yeah. And one of the things that we kind of spoke about a lot was my childhood experience. And I realized how much of it really shaped who I am today, the depth of it. You know, often we hear about it all the time, don't we? Books talk about it, podcasts talk about it, celebrities talk about this, you know, oh, my childhood and these experiences that they relate. But it's quite scary, you know, how the depth of how much your childhood really shapes who you are as a person. You know, we call it this storming, forming and norming phases, you know, of life. So you're storming when you're a child, you know, you're kind of going through trying to figure things out and why is something the way it is and why is something happening the way it's happening. And then you have your forming stages where you kind of adapt a personality or you adapt to a certain lifestyle. And then you have your norming phase when now that's you set and, you know, you're kind of secondary environment, your external systems around you are now just normalizing. For me, going through that disciplinary phase as a kid, I struggle to understand why. You know, I really struggle to understand why. Because the kids are naughty. You know, we were discussing some of our own anecdotes recently. How you deal with that child will really, really shape their next decision that they make, the next process that they take on. For me, I became almost a pathological liar, for want of a better word, because I was lying to save myself, you know.
But did it ever work to stop you from being naughty? Or
no,
do you feel like
that's the thing. Never. Like I was that consistent naughty kid. What's Imran going to do next? You know, I often scared myself sometimes. What am I going to do? What am I going to do next? You know, you're constantly fighting authority. It develops a sense of ego in you because, again, when you're that naughty kid, people don't want to deal with you. So sometimes you think that you've won or as a child, your mental state is, I won. My emotions, my tantrums, my misbehavior has won, and now this person doesn't want to challenge me anymore. But in reality, oftentimes parents, they don't want to challenge because they're done. Or other authority figures, teachers, madrasa teachers, school teachers, they're done. They're like, yeah, okay, just do what you need to do, kid. I'm not really that bothered with you anymore. But we, as a naughty child, I put myself in that category, we misrepresent that as I won. So for me, that's how I felt. So it developed these really really negative traits in me, things that as an adult I had to really combat.
Jazakallah khair. Brother Hassan, you mentioned on our Road to Hijrah podcast that we did that, if people want to hear the full context, you can go to the podcast, but you headbutted one of the teachers and you threw a shoe at him. When you got home, I was very impressed with what you mentioned. Can you just tell us, so you've done this, you've got home, what happened? Your aunt who raised you, what did she do?
So my aunt was not a big fan of physical kind of discipline. She was more of a mentor coach. And because she's developed within me this ability to think for myself, etc. When I got home, I think what used to get my compliance most was preventing her from being disappointed in me. So I didn't want her to be disappointed. So when I got home, and she said, what's happened? I didn't tell her initially the full story. I said, I'm here early and school is finished early and so forth. And then afterwards, she said, really, what happened? And I told her, this is what's happened. And she just said, is that what we do? And she walked away. And at that moment, I swear my world fell apart, because I was thinking, how could I do something which disappoints her that much, that makes her feel as though she's raised a bad child. And I would have preferred to be hit in that moment. Like I would want to be hit instead of, because I can deal with short-term pain. But then the disappointment of a parent, come on, man. And it's something that I think she's built over a long period, because it's always been consistent. As a child, I was consulted. I was not given orders. So the way she's raised me was.
Allah.
So that's the thing, right?
Absolutely.
If a child is going to feel that weight from the disappointment, you need to have that relationship in the first place.
Absolutely.
That trust.
What you're seeing anecdotally, and it's I would like to assume, because I know who you are, that you've probably read a little bit about child psychology. Maybe that's how this has come about. But when we look at studies of child psychology specifically, this is one thing they discuss time and time again. Control groups where parents have scaffolded the child's emotion beforehand. Like this sort of discipline, for want of a better word, where she's giving you the disappointment. That doesn't work unless you've done the work beforehand.
Exactly.
The scaffolding around you. She's already instilled in you the right moral compass, the objective morality that you need. So then when she's hitting you with this, it's like, Whereas there's some kids, and example I'll give you of my ex stepson. It's painful saying these, but sometimes there's a word. There's a word for an orphan. There's a word for it, isn't it? Someone who has no parents, you call them an orphan. What do you call parents who have lost children? So I often think about this, and not to take away from parents who have actually physically lost children, but one of the things of being a step parent is you do, when breakups happen, you lose access to the children. So I always look at one of them, and I always remember him, and he was very much a troubled child. For him, if you had given him this response, and we did oftentimes, very disappointed in he was fine with that. He could sit in a room on his own for 5 hours with nothing at all and just take it and be okay with it.
Detach
himself completely, because that scaffolding wasn't there. You can't give him the disappointment treatment. He was a very angry child. He had a lot of other emotional kind of deficiencies, more than, for want of a better word. And that was never really addressed. When I was speaking to his mum and discussing these things, oftentimes it's very hard to have any strategy because you've not done the hard work beforehand. So with a child like that, you have to go right back to the beginning. Almost kind of negate the fact that they're misbehaving. They don't know how to behave. It's not misbehaving in the sense of their negative behavior. They just don't know how to behave. They don't know how to emotionally regulate. Some kids, if you look at them, and these studies were scary, they were hissing, they were biting, and they're physically lashing out. And these are kids who have zero emotional regulation. No one's sat with them, and no one's even given them an example of how you should react. You know, you have examples of my child, you know, Maryam specifically. I talk to her a lot. I sit with her in her emotions. You know, I try and figure out why you're upset, you know, and she responds very well to this. But it takes a lot of effort, man. You know, when they say to you, get out of my room, this is a typical example, get out of my room. As a parent, you can say, okay, I'm leaving the room. But what you should be doing is saying, no, I'm the edge. Yeah, I'm going to sit here with you in your fear, in your grief, in your upset, in your anger. And I'm going to sit here with you. And we're going to discuss it. Yeah, you want to get angry, that's fine, no problem. You're allowed to have your emotions. But I'm going to sit here with you and we're going to regulate this together. Don't just walk out, you know. You be the edge, you know. And that's the starting of this developing this scaffolding, you know.
So if let's say for a parent who's maybe missed the opportunity to kind of build this from the beginning, and they want to start now, how do you then develop that from?
It's so difficult. You know, there are a lot of parents, and it's a very good question, because I was struggling with this. This is exactly what I was struggling with, you know, because especially with the stepkids, because I missed that whole, you know, and I've stepped into thinking, what is going on? So you have to adopt different techniques for different people. One of the things I learned specifically was financial reward. I don't mean you start chucking money at them. I don't mean that. I mean using, I use financial specifically because these kids, they understood finances. You know, back in the day, you use stickers. You know, I love the sticker. Now kids don't care about a sticker. Nah. They're like, give me that 100.
They know the value of everything.
They know the value. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, the stickers ain't going to work. Yeah. You know, so for me, that financial incentive worked. But in the sense that it has to be very controlled. It has to be very, very contractual. The child should know, yeah, very beforehand, very much so, what's at stake here. Yeah. What's at stake here?
Did you have much experience with physical discipline growing up, and do you feel like it worked or works?
No. As we mentioned off air, it's I can just remember the one time that my mum physically disciplined us, and that was because me and my sister, who's very close in age, we fought. So she just wanted to kind of instill in us that no matter what happens, we don't fight each other. That's it. And that was the one time. I could even tell you, maybe on one hand, you know, I'm 38 years old. On one hand, the times I even disagreed with my mum. But that's not necessarily a positive, because I don't feel like what you're saying now, I don't feel like my mum was equipped like emotionally to discipline kids. So then she didn't do some of the things that now, like Brother Imran is mentioning, because she didn't know it. She doesn't know it. So a lot of times she kind of just removed herself or done the disappointing thing, but without that scaffolding. So it's like we're just left to just be like, oh my goodness, she's disappointed. I just break down. That's it. So, but there's nothing for me to like, there's no reference point. So in my family, I feel like our communication was a problem. And that starts obviously at the top. Whether that's the lack of a husband and dad in the home, but also I feel like my mum wasn't equipped. She was married at, you know, she had my eldest brother at 14.
When you say communication, like, what do you mean? Like,
I'll tell you an example. So I had this discussion with my wife the other day. I said to her, you know what, it's so crazy. We're literally the opposite, our families. My wife, when I see her interacting with her family, like, I'm like, oh, I missed out on so much. Because they interact like so robustly. Yeah. They'll shout and this and talk and everything just comes out. So everyone feels better. With us, till today, we don't know how to do that as a family. We just sweep it under the rug like it never happened. Tomorrow's a new day. That's it. We move on. Everything is just move on. So it's like, I'm not even equipped for that. Yeah. So then I start to see these things kind of like I have to nip it in the bud, where it's like, I can't be like this with my kids now, or show them that this is how we're communicating. So I try to have these active conversations with my wife, because I'm telling her this is my deficiency. So it's like, let's try, but it's not going to be easy for me, because I just know how to just shut down instantly. So I tried my best with my kids, like even my Maryam as well, same thing. Her emotions, regulating her emotions, super difficult, because she just like instantly reacts. And I tried to tell her, like, okay, let's talk about it. Even if you have that emotion, it's fine, but we still need to communicate it, so that she doesn't fall into this trap of non-communication. Because then later on, how am I going to know if there's a problem?
So you want to do hijrah, but you're worried about finances. How will you fund the move? Now, it's true, you can make hijrah with very little to many countries. However, I know for some of you, you want to go to particular countries and those will require a certain level of finances for you to be able to do so. Well, if you're looking for a way to make money online that doesn't require you to be tied down to a specific location, then you might be interested in the Influencer Marketing Agency Accelerator that teaches people how to start making money online even if they have zero previous business experience. The success rate is incredible. Allahumma barik. I've seen with my very own eyes the number of success stories. Many brothers have actually ended up being able to make hijrah off the back of the money they've been able to make through this business model and mentorship. Me personally, guys, I find it very hard to trust people and recommend people, but wallahi, Allah is my witness. I trust the brother Abu Lahia who runs this, and therefore I would genuinely recommend it to you if you are looking for a way to make money online. With that said, it's not easy, it's not cheap, but I highly recommend, at the very least, you check it out. I'll leave the link in the description for those of you that are interested. With that said, let's get back into the episode, inshallah.
I'm kind of gathering from you guys that you guys believe physical discipline doesn't work, right? Or it shouldn't be used. Is that in totality? Or do you believe there is some type that, you know what, in moderation or in this particular situation, circumstance?
In totality, for so many reasons. For two primary reasons.
Do you guys agree with that?
I think I agree with it mostly. The bit that I don't agree with is I think there needs to be the
Deterrence.
Deterrence.
Yeah.
So the child needs to know. Like, for example, now my son, he knows that I'm very consultative with everything. I'm like, you know, Abdullah, let's do this, let's do that. But he knows if he doesn't listen, he knows what time it is.
Yeah.
So,
But that
it doesn't happen.
How old is he?
He's 12. He's almost 13.
Okay, so how is he tall as you, big as you?
He's the same height as me.
The same height. Okay.
Same height as me.
Now this dynamic, wallahi, I'm probably just gonna very soon is gonna change. Yeah. I'm going through it now, and I've made a few mistakes in the development of my not mistakes, astaghfirullah. I mean, I've made a few unwise decisions for myself in the upbringing of my children. Yeah, and I explained to you, I go in a bit more depth in that and exactly why this reason. Because disciplining children physically. It's not needed specifically. And I'll tell you why. If you are the sort of, for example, I'll give you a perfect example here now. So my sons, since they've been 7 years old, they've been doing jiu-jitsu, Thai boxing, they've started Dagestani wrestling. So my friends said to me, bro, like when they're 18, like they're going to be hitting levels where they're doing purple belts, brown belts. You know, Muhammad, if he does really well, he can hit his black belt by 19, 21. Like these are going to be like killers. Like when you go up to them, and like Faris, he's 13, actually, wallahi, he wears my shoes, he's taller than me. Yeah, and he's not a small kid. He's got the genetics. So I'm like, bro, this is what I'm saying. Like, Muhammad loves sparring with me already. And I'm thinking, like, he goes to me, because bro, like, when they're that age, and you say to them, calm down, they're going to look at you like, I just got my black belt today, Dad. Who are you?
But then isn't that, sorry to cut you off, isn't that, like, I'm not saying you have to resort to violence, because I've never been hit. And I've never hit my son ever.
Yeah.
But if he does not know, because there comes a point when they're around 14 where he's going to say to you, I'm not doing that.
Yes.
And if you just say, okay, then, khalas, in that day, you've handed over responsibility of fatherhood, right?
Giving him the keys.
See, now, this is the biology now. This is biology. Yeah. This is where, we look at the old lions and the young lions. What's the old lion doing? He's still showing the physical capability to be the leader of that pride. To be that wolf is still being the leader of that pack. It's on you. When you are physically incapable, physicality plays into this because we're biological creatures. We're not machines. Our hormonal levels, the amount of testosterone you contain, certain hormones that trigger leadership qualities. Yeah, that we have. How high are those hormones in our body? What are we doing to maintain that? Are we getting for Fajr? Here's the first thing. As a simple example, we're not getting for Fajr and we're expecting our kids to pray Salah. Are you mental? Like, you think your child is going to look at you with any sense of respect when you do not have the ability to get up out of bed and pray Fajr. 2 rakat. What are you presenting to your child? You can't run. You can't, lift anything heavy. You have no, you go for a walk and you're breathing. And I met a brother the other day. Wallahi, we walked up the stairs and he was out of breath. I was in Lebanon just a couple of days ago, huffing and puffing. And I'm thinking, bro, you're the exact same age as me. One flight of stairs and you're huffing and puffing. It's insane. So physically, you have to maintain yourself. That's one absolute key. Everything else is about examples. Whether it's financial, emotional, the way you deal. Like, I went through this phase where my son was getting a bit older, so I changed the way I used to address his mother. So instead of saying to him, don't speak to your mother like that, I changed it to don't speak to my wife like that. And that changed the complete concept of how he became around his mum now. He went from being just a son to like, oh, like the dad's wife. And like, and to be a bit more responsible in life now, you know. But it's things like that, you know. That relationship will change, and the way you address it changes, you know.
So you're talking about older kids. What about younger kids? Because I remember there was a brother in the UK, right? And we went to masjid one time. He brought his son, and he mentioned the story. I can't remember exactly, but from what I do remember, what he basically said is the first time when his son was messing around or doing something, I think he must have been like 3 years old, something like that. He counted down like 3, 2, 1, and on 1 he gave him a pinch. And it wasn't like it's not going to leave a mark or, you know, cause you, but enough to make him go, oh. Yeah. So he goes, from that one time that he did it, from then he's never needed to do it again, because now all he does is 3, 2, on 2 is done. Because the son's expecting when I get to pinch, 0, I'm going to get a pinch.
Okay, so in that case, we need to define corporal punishment then, I suppose. Okay. What do we talk when we're talking discipline, physical discipline? Because corporal punishment, like sometimes shouting at a child can be far more traumatic than this. You know, absolutely can be far more traumatic than this. So you then have to figure out what is the level of trauma that you're going to cause.
Because I remember when I was growing up, there was a neighbor that lived a few doors down. He was, I think, 1 academic year younger than me. His dad had this. It was like a stick, but it was like a wire.
Wow, it's framed as well.
Yeah, I just remember, like, if he would do anything or whatever, like, and you could hear it, you know, like
cutting through the wind.
And I used to be sitting thinking, my next, I need to get out of this house. Like we're here playing video games and this and that. And I remember and I was talking about my mum about this recently. She had a friend. Yeah, she was a single mum. And looking back at it now, like, she has some serious issues. Yeah, she used to destroy her son. Her son was my age, so my mum was a single mum. I can't remember where they met, how they met, but I remember one time she came around to our house. Yeah, my mum was looking back at it thinking, bro, we should have called the police or something.
Yeah,
like, she put him in freezing cold water in the bath.
Oh, yeah.
I can't have been, like, I must have been primary school.
She's probably seeing her
cold plunge.
Cold plunge, bro.
Cold plunge. The ice before it was but she used to beat him, like. Now, I think my mum bumped into him a while back. Alhamdulillah, the son was with the dad. Like, she lost custody of the son, but she remarried him.
She probably saw her ex in him, you know?
You know, a lot of resentment.
My mum said that she got beat by her parents.
There you go. It's always to do with the parent, you know, any child.
However, I do disagree with.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
A lot of people use it as an excuse, like, oh, I went through X, Y, and Z as a child, so it's done to me. You can become a certain type of person, you know, because of your childhood. But the actions that come off you still have to be filtered.
No, absolutely.
Still absolutely have to be filtered.
But I do think, as parents, one thing you should be mindful of is by you hitting your children, you may lead to them then being people who then end up hitting their children, for example. And of course, you're right. You shouldn't let other people's actions define who you are. But at the end of the day, your environment plays a big part.
You know, absolutely.
The apple doesn't fall far
because
from the tree.
They may not ever emotionally regulate. They may not ever learn about how to, you know, change themselves. They may not have the right resources around them. You know, I was very fortunate. Some of us are very fortunate with access to therapists, friends, mentors that gave us the guidance to make a change. Yeah, absolutely.
This wasn't around when our parents were...
Goodness. But yeah, so I think with younger children, when it comes to disciplining, even then... So we look at a couple of examples. We can look at it from a very, very sociological, very science-based approach. Okay, if you look at it from you are without a doubt going to create a neural link, a neuroplastic link between them feeding some sort of fear factor and then action. What then happens then, their drive will be based on adrenaline. A lot of what that kid will do as they get older, especially if they're constant. Every now, if you do it once in a blue moon, because you've had a really bad day, and, like, you know, day's been long, you've had no sleep, you're stressed, there's bills on your head, the wife's been a bit horrible to you, and you've just gone, just chill, you know, just stop 1 second.
Or sometimes it might even be a reaction.
Yeah, like, a reactive thing.
Let's just say they give you a really hard scratch, or they pull your beard, suddenly you just, like, out of a reaction.
In that situation, you don't become a bad dad or a bad mum. You know, that's not what's happening there.
It's about consistency, isn't it?
If you're consistently using these, you know, methods of fear and causing, you're just shouting too much. Yeah. One of the things I used to always tell the boys' mum, please don't shout.
Don't shout, 100%.
Like, for me, like, it's achieving nothing.
Yeah. And it causes such trauma. And honestly, then they don't learn how to regulate, because you're showing them that you can't regulate your emotions. Yeah. They'll be surprised when they start shouting.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
If you're telling them, you know, get lost, for example, they watch, give it a week, they're going to start telling their peers or even you get lost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what they're learning from you.
That's it, absolutely. So I also, that's this, don't shout. Just think of a calm solution for this issue. And there's one way to look at parenting, yeah, the perspective that I like to use as an exercise. And I think all parents should try this. You'd be surprised how much of a lens it gives you compared to your own. Let yourself know that this child who is your child is actually not your child. You are just accountable for this child, and it's from Allah. If I was to give you my child and you touched my kid, whether it was a quick slap on the back of the head or just a calm down, I would be very upset.
So
I'd be like, doesn't matter how naughty that child was, don't touch my kid. Come and speak to me about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah? As long as, they're not causing harm to others and it's not out of, but you have no right to do that. In the same way, they are our children, but at the same time, they're not our children. What I mean by that is they're not our property. They are literally a trust from Allah. You have a responsibility towards them. They are Allah's slaves, and Allah says what they say, He loves us more than our parents. I think it's something like 70 times more than your mother. So how do you think the Khalik is feeling when you are then taking your anger out on that child in any way, shape or form?
I really struggled with this initially at the start, right, with my son Yusuf, and I used to shout because for me it was like, in my mind it was like, and he's like maybe 2-3 years old, yeah. So he's at the point where he can understand what you tell him. He can even like communicate a little bit back to you. So in my mind it was like, if I've asked you to do something and you haven't done it, like you're disrespecting me. You're outright disobeying me. It's like, how dare you, right? But all it took was for me to realize, bro, a kid can't understand. It's not the same. Like,
can't comprehend.
Like if I told you guys, I love this seat. I don't want any of you to sit in this seat. I'm letting you know this is my seat and I love this. Please, when you come to the studio, even if I'm running late, don't sit in my seat. If I walk in and one of you are sitting on my seat, I've got a right to be angry. I've got a right to crash out. I've got a right to be like, bruv, what are you doing? If you tell a 2-3-year-old, don't sit in this chair, and you leave the room, you come back and they're sitting in the chair, you got no right to be angry with them, because either you haven't done, or I'll give you another example, yeah. And I'll use women as an example, right? Women, they like things to look nice, right? They like things to look nice, like things to be decorated and this and that. But you're now putting more on the table for the child to potentially come and destroy. So if you come into the room now and all of your nice little decorations and whatnot that were at a height level that the kid could easily reach them are now destroyed, do you have the right to be angry with the child, or should you be angry with yourself? If you left the door unlocked that they can easily access, is it the child to blame for going in and messing everything up, or is it you to blame? Exactly. I think once you realize this, that ultimately I am the one that's responsible. If you can take extreme accountability, extreme ownership as the parent, you decide the environment, you call the shots. You're the one that is enabling this behavior by leaving these things out or not locking doors or whatever else it might be. That's a huge changing 100%. Point. And when you have that mentality shift, I promise you, number one, your parenting style will change, as it did for me, 100% big time. And number two, your relationship with your child will change, man. That fear will no longer be there.
No. The going to the shouting thing, like there's a really crazy example. So my friends in high school, who were my neighbors, there's 4 brothers, and their mum was constantly shouting. Like me as their friend hated going to the house. And me and those friends of mine at the time, we've had the same upbringing, went to the same schools, like we were together most of the time, etc. But then the trajectory that their life took and the one that mine took, totally different. Because all of them have severe anger management issues. They can't put 2 sentences together without using a swear word, without shouting, without screaming. And because of that, expelled from school, can't go to college, sell drugs, prison. Life is done.
It's a domino effect.
It's a domino effect. Just because you're shouting and the environment in the house is not a very calming place.
One thing, where this shouting thing sometimes comes from. And there was actually a really interesting article that I was reading very recently about this, actually. And they were showing the correlation between parents who say, I'm friends with my kid, and the negative connotations to that. Because everyone thinks it's a very positive thing. I do feel that there's a level to that. The difference between saying, so for example, I always say this, I said, I am my son's best friend. I am my daughter's best friend. They don't need a best friend. You know, people say, when they're homeschooling parents, so what do they all say? You know, oh, well, how do they socialize? Or do they not need friends?
First question, yeah.
I'm like, I think I am the best friend for them. I know more than any kid their age. I have more resources than kids their age.
More
I have
fun.
More fun, yeah. I can do way more. Why would you not want to be my best friend? I mean, your friends can't take you go-karting. You know what I mean? Like, your friends can't take you on a shopping spree. My daughter rinsed me yesterday. We went Dubai Hills Mall. Bro, I'm telling you, man, avoid that place with the kids. You know, there's a place called Dr. Stretch there. I'm just a bit tangent, but so I went for a session for treatment there. So I thought I'll just take my daughter with me whilst, you know, we can do some stuff in the mall. So there's that soft play, a Lego soft play, bro. Amazing. It was so good. She was sat there playing Lego, yeah? So we're done, and she goes, oh, Abu, you were a very long time, you know. I was like, there's something coming here. Because you were a very long time. I was like, 55 minutes? I'm like, you were in there for like an hour and a half, darling. Like, what? She goes, you know, like, you should buy me something. So
Make up for it.
Done me, man.
She's a good negotiator.
She's clever, bro. She's so clever. But I've taught her that. I've shown her that, look, if you want something, you come to me, and as long as you're on point with your behavior, with everything on point, you'll get it. So I went to tangent. What was I saying? I was talking about
Shouting.
The shouting, yeah, sorry. So with parents who say that I want to be friends with my kids, yes, there's a level to that though. The difference you have to make between your child being your friend and your friend being your friend is when you're sat there in their emotions. Like you said to me, bro, I had a hard day, man. You know, I'm struggling with this and this. I can say, okay, you know what? Let's talk about it, bro. Like, I can relate. I had this, and this. We could talk ideas, bounce each other off. We could emotionally regulate. Yeah. You can do the same thing with your child, but be very aware that you can emotionally regulate, they can't. So they might be talking about the issues that they're having, or that they're bothered that food wasn't very nice today, or that they lost on, I don't know, they couldn't finish their book, or their mum shouted at them. Usually the mum shouted at them, you know, or like, you know, their friend couldn't come out to play today or whatever. You sit and talk to them about it, but be very, very wary. And this is the time where you teach them how to emotionally regulate. Yeah? So you can be friends in that sense, but never do the mistake of being a friend to your child in the sense that you would be a friend to a friend. There's so many negative connotations to that, so many negative outcomes to that.
There has to be boundaries.
There has to be boundaries.
There have to be, you know, rules, regulations, processes, everything in place. Otherwise, as you said, it is a slippery slope. Going back to what you mentioned earlier, you know, when it comes to shouting or even physical discipline, you mentioned it's a very short-term solution. It might, in the immediate, get them to stop doing exactly what they're doing. But remember, parenting isn't a short-term job. It's a very, like, this isn't someone you're just gonna, your objective is not to get them to stop doing what they're doing in that moment. What is the objective of parenting? You're trying to raise the next generation to benefit the ummah, to benefit society, to be good citizens within that society, and ultimately to get into Jannah. You need to ask yourself, these actions that I'm taking, these micro actions, which all add up, it might not seem that bad in the moment. What's wrong? I gave him a slap and he stopped hitting his sibling, for example. But what's the long-term effect of that slap that's going to have on that child moving forward? And where have you gone wrong in your mindset? Where have you lost? It's like, you know, sometimes even with the deen, people, you get so caught up in the dunya, you don't even realize it. You're making decisions that are going to jeopardize your akhirah. But anyone who was in the right frame of mind and always kept the akhirah at the forefront, you would never fall into mortgages, haram, music, all these things. But because you're so busy in the rat race, you're busy with this, with parenting, it's the same. The ultimate objective is here. You sometimes lose sight of that, and that's why you'll end up taking these actions, which will be ultimately at the detriment of your child. So you have to really try and keep at the forefront of your mind, why am I here? Why am I a parent? You know, if your why is clear, for some people, maybe you need to have a post-it note. You know, certain brothers that I know, they have something called affirmations, where they wake up every morning and they read out the affirmations. I'm a parent who doesn't do this, or I'm a parent who does do this. I'm an employer who treats employees like this, just as a refresh. You know, as humans, we need reminders.
You just need to see it sometimes.
Sometimes you forget. Yeah, you just need it to be at the forefront. So you need to figure out a way or a system that keeps this framing there. And inshallah, that will be a means for you to not resort to physical violence as a form of discipline, or even, as you said, sometimes there's, you know, non-physical, but like shouting, which can be worse. You don't realize it. You might think, look, at least I don't slap him. At least I don't hit him or her. But you don't realize you're actually messing them up far more by shouting at them, and, you know, so on and so forth. Another thing that when it comes to discipline, I feel like can be a big problem
is when the mother and the father, they're not on the same page. So, for example, one parent will come in with a, form of discipline. Let's say timeout, or, take the toy away, or this or that. The other parent will come and, give it back to them.
Good cop, bad cop.
Good cop, bad cop. But sometimes it's not even good cop, bad cop. It's cop and thief.
Yeah.
They're on the cop and criminal. They're on completely different.
They're not in the same company.
They're not even in the same company. They're on completely different pages.
True.
Like one's like, no, let's be, what's it called? Soft parenting. What's it called? Gentle parenting. They call it, or whatever they call it.
Yeah, I don't like this word gentle parenting. Because people call me a gentle parent a lot, even though I don't look like a gentle parent. They say you're a very gentle parent, and I've actually been told by other kind of colleagues of mine that your type of parenting is gentle parenting. I say no. I say I'm what I call a sturdy parent. I'm the sturdy parent. I'll be kind, not nice.
That's what I'm saying.
Kind, not nice. Yeah.
I'm not a nice guy. I'm a good guy.
Yeah.
But I'm not a nice guy. Don't think you can take advantage of me.
Yeah, 100%.
Whether it's in business, whether it's in life, whatever it is. I'm not, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
No, we're not nice guys. But we're good guys.
We're good guys. Yeah, absolutely.
Alhamdulillah. I think our moral compass is on point.
Yeah, you have to adopt this with kids, very much so. Sorry,
and also, there is a difference between shouting and being stern in your voice. I use my stern voice every now and again when I have to. I don't shout. I don't raise my voice. I'm not screaming at the top of my lungs. But it's Yusuf. And that's it. Sometimes that's all it takes.
But that also shows a form of communication that's calm and collected. So he's stern, but he knows that, Baba's not panicking. He's not, shouting for no reason kind of thing. It's for a reason. I've done something and Baba's giving me the solution. So then when he needs to be stern, let's say, maybe to a friend in the playground where they're doing something wrong, he can be stern without being one of those aggressive or whatever, which you see kids do. And this is something that it's a learned behavior. So for me, the number one thing is to summarize these points is either you're setting them up for failure or for success. There's only two options.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to me, that transcends into work, marriage, everything you do in life. It's either I'm setting someone up for success or failure. If I put this coffee cup here and there's a 2-year-old, as you said, and I walk out, why would I be surprised if I come back and, he's burnt? Doesn't make any sense. So I have to take, as you said, that kind of aggressive ownership. But that's easier said than done, on a day-to-day. But if you have that vision, just like with the being like a startup founder or whatever, there's people who are like visionary, let's say like Steve Jobs. Yeah, he's got the vision, but he's not executing. He's not doing the coding himself. So there's two different people. As long as the vision remains on point, then the execution will also remain on point.
One of the biggest things here is just you need to learn how to not react when you're feeling that intense emotion. Whether that's anger, frustration, could even be sadness. I don't know, maybe you need to learn to just, in that moment, if you're standing, sit down, as the Prophet said. If you're sitting, lie down.
Yeah.
Do wudu. Just keep your mouth closed. And that, by the way, goes with your wife, that goes with your children, it goes with your colleagues, goes with your friends, it goes with everyone. And as men, remember, at least if we're healthy men, we have aggressiveness within us. As a man, you have to have it within you.
Capacity is there.
None of this modern, just be a soft, gentle.
No.
Be a warrior in a garden. Right? Not a gardener in a wall. There's a wall you need to make sure that you have that capacity within you, but this is not, inside the house is not the place to be using that. Like, you need to make sure that you learn how to regulate. And that itself is for me, it was just time, man.
It was a what, sorry?
Time. I made a lot of mistakes, bro. Like, first few years.
What was that? Like, what was it that just made you say,
it wasn't one thing?
Or is it gradual?
It's just gradual over time, man. The more you learn, the more you speak to other brothers, the more you seeing other parents, what they're doing, reading books. Sometimes it's just even sometimes my wife will correct me. And this is a big thing, again, going back to the whole, husband, wife, mother, father, the dynamic. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, it's hard to take a correction, at the moment, I'll be like, no, you're wrong.
There were studies on this, on how parents who parent differently, the effects that it has. The primary emotion or the primary outcome that they saw in kids where the parenting techniques were different or there was inconsistent decision making with parents. The parents are fine, as in they were good couples, but they just couldn't parent together. Like, one would discipline the other one, one would find I don't like this behavior, one would be like, it's fine with it. One would say they can wake up later, one would say they want them up earlier. In the child, what they saw was high levels of anxiety. The child became very anxious, struggled with decision making, confidence levels was dropped. Even some of them started developing eating disorders based on this one factor, because they didn't look at anything else. They looked at this one metric of, are the parents consistent in their decision making when it comes to the children? So this is vital. This is something you should be doing on the initial marriage talks. When we parent, we're going to parent like this. Like, there's some basic questions you can write down. You know, I mean, I knew one brother, brother Muhammad, you know, the Asuk, Muhammad Asuk, yeah. He's got like 100 questions, literally written down 100 questions. For a marriage meeting. I thought, that's good.
The girl needs to have patience.
Bro. Yeah, that's good, bro.
But you need to remember, you need to have regular software updates.
Yeah. Can't have the 1990s list right now.
You've discussed it back then, but things changed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but you've got a point of reference. This is the point. Like, it's you know, when I'm speaking to parents specifically and they're having this issue with kids, because sometimes I speak to couple and it's interesting because and I hone things down and I take the layer after layer, and it comes down to the fact that their issues aren't coming from the fact that they aren't a good couple together. Their issues are coming from the fact that they aren't good parents together. They struggle that everything else they're fine with. When they're buying a car, when they're buying a house, and they're going off meals. When it comes to the kids, there's all these issues happening and they've not even recognized it because they're so busy thinking it's a couple's issue. They've not realized it's an issue with, let's go back to how you're parenting for a second. And they're like, well, Dr. Khan, what's the issue here? Well, I said, okay, you've told me 10 problems. 8 of them seem to be related to how you're dealing with things as a parent. You know, she's saying, you know, you want to go on a date. He's saying, can't find a babysitter, for example. The issue isn't that you don't both want to go on a date. You both want to go on a date. The issue is that you logistically can't figure out getting how to get a babysitter because one of you have got trust issues, the other one hasn't. One of you likes babysitters, the other one doesn't like babysitters. Yeah, one of you wants to say, let's drop them off at my mum's, and the one that says, I don't want to do that to my mum. It's these kind of decisions that you're struggling to make. You know, one of you says they can go bed a bit later today because we're going to be out for a meal. But one of you says, no, they have to go bed at a certain time. It has to stay consistent. So your parent making decisions aren't aligning. So it's having a massive knock-on impact onto your marriage.
Doesn't that fall back into our parents?
Yeah.
Because that's what I feel like these problems you're mentioning, these are things I suffer from. Like within my marriage is that we have that sometimes that inconsistency. And a lot of times, sometimes it's like, you know, it's bad to say, but maybe in spite. So it's like, let's say you're arguing. So now like there's a deficiency in the way no, I don't want to do it that way now because we're not on the same page, you know, in the relationship, which is really toxic because for the kid, they have nothing to do with what your argument is about, number one. But two, I feel like a lot of these things also, because let's say, for example, you know, I speak to some of my friends and I'm like, we're on a call at like 10 p.m. And I can hear a 2-year-old in the background. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
Sorry, bro.
But that's just... That's their thing. That's their style, and that's maybe how they grew up, and it's normal for them, and it's fine.
You know, I had this exact convo with my missus.
I don't necessarily think it's fine though for a 2-year-old.
Not fine. What I'm saying is,
see, this is my wife's mentality. No, it's got to. We had this discussion. Oh, they're sleeping till really late. I said, okay, what's late? Until 9 a.m. I said, okay.
9 a.m.
Yeah. But I'll explain why. It was
wait, they're sleeping until 9?
Yeah, till 9 a.m. But
until 9?
Until 9 a.m.
I thought you said they fall asleep.
No, until 9. But they're going to sleep quite late. Yeah, they're going to sleep quite late.
Yeah.
So I said to the missus, I said, what's the issue? I said, oh, they should be getting up earlier. I said, yeah, I agree. But then they have to go bed earlier. Now, their schedule, because it's home education, they can kind of, that's the whole point.
It's the freedom.
There's a freedom in that. I said, the issue is, if you're concerned that they're not getting enough sleep, that's not a problem because they're sleeping later, so they're waking up slightly later. Whereas if they were going to school and had to be up at 7 a.m. in the morning, they'd be going to sleep earlier. There's not an issue with their bedtime. The issue is just slightly later. They're still getting Fajr, they're doing a bit of tilawah, and they're going back to bed. That's fine with me.
But it's a culture thing.
It's a culture thing, yeah.
Exactly.
Also, no, but there are some things that are a little bit objective though. Like the night was created for sleep. That's what
of course.
It's, you know, it's mentioned in the Quran.
No, of course,
and these things, and even there's studies, right, that the best sleep is the sleep you get at night. If someone's sleeping until 12 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, you 12 p.m. that's ridiculous.
No, but there's children.
They're there, absolutely. And
11 a.m., 12 p.m.
My eldest stepdaughter is exactly what she did, and it caused so much health difficulties as well. Because this is what happens when you sleep in too late. Health deficiencies, mental and physical, absolutely. You know, we see them come about. So yeah, you are right in that sense. But it's about finding the sweet
balance. Yeah,
absolutely.
And a lot of it's about
too rigid. And a lot of this is it. This is the truth.
Yeah, and then a lot of it's about aligning the principles, and this is what it's going back to. Like, you know, when you're disciplining the kids, you know, are your principles aligned? Are your purpose for that discipline aligned? You know, when you're putting your daughter on the naughty step, Are you just like, I used to have this issue. I said, look, she's going to the naughty step, Amina, but why is she going? Does she know why she sat there?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I was reading this article about making the child's space smaller. So when children, when they have an emotional outburst, you know, they're really emotionally spiked, what happens is that the room, it decides how big that emotion is. They've actually done qualitative studies, they've discussed with kids, you know, give your emotion a physical presence and it would fill the room. And when they put those same kids in a smaller room, that emotion collapsed. It became smaller. They put them in an even smaller room, the emotion went even smaller. And it got to a point where they felt they could manage it. So this is why things like the naughty step are so effective. Because what you're doing is you're making that space small for them. They don't have access to the whole house anymore. You're restricting them just to the stairs. No, just to one step. You are sat on that step, that is your world now. Yeah. Now suddenly those big emotions have to collapse. And it works very well. You know, kids don't know how to contain emotions the same way adults do. So what they do is they just let it collapse. A lot of it dissipates. A lot of it gives them time to think. And then they ask the right questions. Why am I here? Now, it's up to you in that moment to explain to the child, why are they on that naughty step, for example? Many parents don't. They just time it and then they bring them off. You really have to go down to the very tax of why are you on this child? Why are you on this step? You know, and it's not about questioning the child. A lot of people go ask this question. Why are you messing about? This annoys me. This really gets to me. Because that question is completely the wrong question. You're confusing the child by asking these questions.
It's too open-ended.
Yeah, don't ever ask why. Give them exact choices. Yeah. You shouldn't have been doing that. You know you shouldn't have been doing that. What should you have been doing? That's how that question should be phrased. Not, why are you doing that? You know, my son, my Muhammad, he takes advantage of this, you know, because he's very clever. So you ask him that why question, you're done. He's taking control of that conversation.
Give
is
you
done,
the politician's answer.
He's taken that conversation off you now.
This morning I had high sugar breakfast.
Yeah.
Due to the
energy
levels,
levels. Honestly, bro,
and I
like,
crashed. And then,
you know, you don't give them the opportunity. You know, you have to be very much in the leadership role of, you shouldn't have been doing that. You know, this is what you should have been doing. Yeah.
Hassan, what are your thoughts?
So I think the trail of thought that keeps coming back to my head while you were talking is, you've got the type of parents who, so maybe it's three types of parents. The type of parents who will just abuse the children with physical. There's then the type who would do the questioning, etc. And then there's the type and it frustrates me the most, who use negative language on the kids. So they start labeling the kids, humiliating the kids.
No.
And then that more or less destroys that
Absolutely.
child. So,
especially publicly.
Exactly, especially publicly. And these parents have never been, either because they were treated the same way, or they just think, oh, well, this is going to work on this child. Let me maybe make him think I'm not like
what this. I believe they think is, I've said it, it's done. Within an hour or within 10 minutes, everyone's moved on. It's forgotten about it. The consequences are gone.
No.
Yeah.
And you don't see the chip that you just put there. And the next time there's another chip. Another chip. And bro, enough chips, a woodpecker could cut down a massive tree.
Okay, I take my kids to a separate room, even from their mother. Yeah. When I'm going to talk to them, I have a serious conversation about their behavior or discipline. They don't even, not even their mother. So they know this is between me and them. Like, we're having this conversation. I don't want this to happen again. I'm giving you this privilege of keeping this very private.
Respect,
you know, and it works so well. It works so well. So this is very important. You know, respect even to that level, because you're teaching them to then respect others in a certain way. You know,
just going back to the mother and father thing that I mentioned earlier, is one thing I forgot to mention, or I mentioned it, but I want to emphasize it a little bit more. And that's obviously as a father, as a man, you're the leader of the house, right? So you have the authority. Now, one thing that, again, I used to personally struggle with is accepting or believing that I was wrong. In general, just saying, I've generally struggled with, like, getting an apology out of me. Was that trying to draw blood from a stone? I would, like, the word sorry was so it's not in my vocabulary. Like, I could even say, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Look at a soft landing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so, but it's important because look, like, there are times when you're going to get it wrong. Yeah. Like, I'll give you guys an example. I remember one time we were in a cafe and we were sitting outside and we were eating something or having something. And my son, he just wasn't listening. Something else I said to him or I did to him or whatever. So, and we were done with our food. So I said to him, all right, cool. Me and mum, we're going to leave. You're going to stay here. Me and mum are leaving. And then kind of got up to leave, and I said to my wife, "Come, let's go." And she was like, "No, like, as in, I don't think that, like we should do that." Like, but I got angry because for me, it's like don't contradict me in the moment. Like I'm disciplining him, and he's getting shook. He's like, "No, please, no." Like, I was like, "No. If you're not gonna listen, we're gonna leave." So I come. And she started walking towards me, but she was like, "Look, I don't think this is good." Like, she was doing it out of obedience to me, but she's completely disagreed. But I got angry with her because I was like, "What? Like, don't undermine me, innit?" I'm in the boss mode. Like, I'm calling the shots right now. So then later, we got home. She came over. She sat down, and she was like, "By the way, I really don't think." And she had gone to ChatGPT and had a whole conversation. Not only had a conversation with him about why it's
the
wrong,
backup ready.
not only she had a conversation with him why it's wrong. She said, "How can I convey this to my husband without him getting?" So she came. So she sent it to me. I looked at it. I read it. And I saw, bruv, this can cause abandonment issues. It's telling them that you're going to leave them and you should never do this and whatnot. I was like, no, like, it's effective if it works. Yeah. But looking, I read into it. I said, bruv, no, you know what? You're right. I'm never going to do that ever again. My bad.
Up to age 3, you know what the primary driver, the primary motivator for a child is? Boy and a girl. Up to the age of 3.
Love.
Almost. When you say primary driver, what do you mean?
For everything that they do. What drives them? What's their motivational factor? Motivating emotion is attachment.
Belonging.
Belonging. Attachment. Yeah, love, attachment. Same word. Same difference essentially. It's attachment. The attachment to the parent. They are biologically designed at that age to stay attached to you because they are still in what we call a gestation period. So human babies, they gestate outside of the womb. So once you're born, you are still massively developing because of the way we're bipedal, which means our hips are not designed. They are designed stuff for a way, but they're designed in a different way where we cannot allow the size of the child the way it is to pass in a full form. What I mean by that is human gestation takes place up until about 2.5. So if a woman had to carry a baby until 2.5 years old, that would absolutely wreck. She would be dead like after that childbirth because it would be too much. So we give birth to the child and it continues gestating. During that period, its attachment is everything that drives it.
It's like it's still inside.
It's still inside, quite literally, yeah.
Like a kangaroo.
It is quite literally, yeah, absolutely.
But just without the pouch.
Yeah, you might have cut the umbilical cord, and we joke about this, you're still attached. Well, you are quite literally still attached, biologically speaking. The more you nurture that at that age, not later on. I mean, some kids are sleeping in the bed till 8, 9, that's unhealthy. But early days sleeping in the bed is very, very good for the child. It helps them emotionally regulate, keeps them calm. It's really good for how they manage things like serotonin and dopamine specifically with healthy triggers. We forget this. We have this thing, 6 months, put them in their own room. Like, I really disagree with this.
Same, yeah.
I think, especially for men, and what I mean by that is, typically, I'm a big fan of saying to people, you should be sleeping in separate rooms anyway. Not for any other reason apart from the fact that there's a healthy physical element to it. But in the sense of, if your kid is sleeping in the bed with you from, let's say, from 6 months old to about 2, 3, and do it safely. I mean, we hear about all these kind of horror stories, and I've had my own bad experiences with that. So there's safe ways of doing it. There's co-sleepers that you can purchase that attach to the side of the bed. There's systems that you can put into the bed itself to do that, or even having a nap. In a very safe, sat-up environment, for example. These things really, really help the bond. You can't ignore the physical bond and what kind of benefit it does to the emotional connection afterwards. We do it think about it, when we're married. If you might have an amazing conversation with your wife and everything's going fantastic, and you think this is the perfect person for me. You try and reach out, touch her hands, and she's be like, "Oh, I don't really want to hug. I don't want to touch. I don't want to kiss." That destroys all of that emotional build-up that you've done. So in the same way with your children, there is a level of physicality that helps with that emotional build-up as well. When you're hugging your children, you're kissing your children. Me and my mother, we hold hands all the time, and it's become like a norm for us. We sit and we hold hands, we will talk. And those conversations are far, far deeper and far, far more connecting than the conversations we have where she's sat across on the sofa on the other side and I'm sat here and she's just telling me about some Pokemon. So the physicality is important as well. So attachment is a child's primary driver till about age 3. Yeah.
I had a conversation recently with Yusuf, sat him down. And I thought, let me just ask him this question. Because I always ask him, what do you like about me? I've never asked him, what do you not like about me? I thought, let me just ask him.
Open a can of worms there.
Yeah,
and I asked him, Yusuf, what do you not like about me? As your, he calls me Abu G. And he said something, and bro, I was like, what? And he said, sometimes you shout at me. I haven't shouted at this kid, I don't think in at least a year and a half, maybe 2 years, over 2 years. And I asked him that. I said, have I shouted at you like anytime recently? He said, no. But I was like, but he still remembers
Exactly.
Yeah.
Subhanallah.
that. Imagine as a parent, you're shouting at your children left, right, center all day, every day. You're thinking, as you said earlier, that I've shouted, it's done. We've all moved on.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
No.
The child will remember.
I would argue you're one of the cooler dads as well. Because does he know you own a supercar business?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, he's been in Ferrari.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I've been telling all my dads, like, you know, like, I've been telling all my friends.
Exactly.
You know, you've been the cool dad, bro.
Well, he's still young. I don't think he fully comprehends or understands it.
But kids know,
But-
man. Kids know.
For him to say that actually...
Yeah, that's
actually-
profound, subhanallah.
I was thinking, bro, that's mad.
Exactly.
How can you remember? Like, we've had 2 years since then. We've gone to Legoland so many times since then. And still remembers. I asked him, what do you not like about me? He said, you shouted. I asked him. Oh, even though I was baffed. I was like, how do you remember that? That was such a long time ago.
Subhanallah.
But the fact that he remembers that, well, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like my son Abdullah. He's even though he's 13 now. In the summer, I was having a conversation with him, and I asked him like, "Who's your favorite, like, grandmother type?" Because he's got so many, and then he's listed everybody in order. So I picked on the last one, and I said, "Okay, why is this one last?" And then he was like, "Oh, she doesn't communicate with me a lot." And I was like, but she buys you everything. She gets you, she spoils you.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, but I know I can't get a conversation with her.
You know, it's this point here, bro, honestly, like, there's so many studies on this. But one, especially with fathers, I recently read, it was like almost illuminating, when I read it. They were talking about, okay, so you always ask kids, okay, what does your mum do for you? Yeah. What is it that you like about your mum? And it's going to sound a bit sexist. It's very gender-based, but it's just what the kid said. Yeah. Oh, she does everything for me. She cooks for me. She does my bed. She makes my clothes, sorts my clothes out. She cleans my clothes. She helps me with my homework. These are the things I like, about my mum. When the same question was asked about dads, there was universally one reply, overwhelmingly, is when he spends time with me.
Yeah.
Subhanallah.
They didn't acknowledge anything else. It was just, and you know why that is though? And I'll tell you why. And this applies to good, successful fathers. This doesn't apply to deadbeat dads. This doesn't apply to, just to give you a caveat, because I know the comments. But this applies to good, successful parents. Because a child very much sees and values a father's time. Yeah, they understand that the father's out working. He's doing things for the family. That resonates. Without speaking, it resonates. Emotionally passes down. So they automatically realize that when my father's giving me time, he's giving me one of the most valuable things he has. Yeah, these are the most valuable, not the things that you buy. I mean, they will remember things you buy, but it's those things, and that transcends just to father, it does transcend to other parents as well, but primarily with fathers, this applies.
I think children having, quality time, which is incredible, but just having the conversations with them, like it's, because he asks a lot, there was a time where my son's put me on the spot because I said something which I shouldn't have. And then he goes, Dad, can I talk to you? Because we're in the room.
It took you to the side.
Yeah, and I was like, what's up?
Yeah.
And then he goes, no.
You step into my office, yeah.
So I walked out, went into the corridor. He goes, that I didn't like.
Oof.
And I swear, like my heart dropped. I was thinking, I felt ashamed, and I was like, I'm sorry. You can't do anything else, because at that moment I'm thinking, okay, how am I gonna use this moment to teach him
make
something,
it exactly humility?
So I was just like, I'm sorry. Like it's wrong. You're right. And I had to come back into the room and say, guys, I'm really sorry because Abdullah's
that was
me.
wrong.
And from that moment onwards, and maybe now he overdoes it. So in school, a teacher would say that they were talking about something about homosexuality, etc. in school. And then he got up and he's like, "That's wrong.
That's wrong." Yeah, bro.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with this.
Yeah,
but because he's seen you say, "Okay, hold on," confidently, "Okay, I'm sorry."
Yeah, we're not perfect.
Yeah, so you have to teach them those. But the only way you can do that is
these kids, the kids that do this, they have a level of tenacity. Now, I look at the psychology of children in this way. I use my own perspective, my own lens, but I look at them and think, okay, when we look at naughty kids, so recently a friend of mine asked me about his kids, and I said, bro, I love your kid, man. I love this kid. And he got really upset. I said, bro, what's up? When he got upset, he goes, bro, something that I don't even like my kid, man. What do you mean? I said, bro, look how tenacious he is, bro. He's focused. This kid, bro, when he sets his mind to do it, he does it. He's like, I'm going to set that car on fire. I'm setting that car on fire. Do you know what I mean? He's tenacious, this kid. And he's resourceful. He finds ways of doing it. He knows how to talk to people. He'll convince you black is white, white is black. Yeah? And he's only 10. But I said, my perspective is this. This child, if you mold him correctly, these are your leaders. These are the kids that the next generation, they're either going to be world leaders or world tyrants. Yeah? So, these are the kids that are either going to be the world leaders or the world tyrants, depending on how you guide them. Yeah. You know? So I love this, bro. You know, Abdullah probably like left going like, I'm the dad now, yeah? That's what I mean.
He says, I'm the captain now.
Mashallah.
We've discussed a lot about the types of discipline to not use and the wrong ways to discipline. Let's now come to some of the ways we should be disciplined that you guys feel like do work. So let's start with the younger children. 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Young children, tantrums and, you know, call it what? Terrible twos.
Yeah.
What would you guys say from your own experiences? What works at this critical age? Wadah.
For me, I feel like you have to identify, like each child is different. That's number one. Don't try and apply the same, you know, because my eldest to my youngest, night and day, completely. That's one. Number two is what Dr. Imran mentioned about that sense of ownership. We're very quick to feel like this is like a belonging I have, and I'm going to basically do this with it and do that with it. As soon as you remove yourself from this equation, Allah has blessed me with this ni'mah. Let me just guide. And at that young age, that's all you should be doing. You shouldn't be setting these crazy rules and all of this. He is a child. Let him do what he's doing. Even as you said, like naughty, whatever. Like in my house, we're not even allowed to say naughty. They're not allowed to use the word naughty, because it has that negative connotation and it has that label and whatever. So at a young age, it should be super open and free-flowing, I feel like. So yeah, that's for that initial period. And the number one thing is everything should be done like working backwards from love. That's it. To me, a child from all ages, to be completely honest, even grown, is they should feel like the home is where the love is. Because they're gonna see a lot of other things outside, a lot of negatives, a lot of challenges and whatever. Home should be the place where this is the peace,
sanctuary.
You know, so that's how I look at it.
No, absolutely. And just building on that point, as you know, you mentioned at the beginning, at the start, that for the disappointment to work, the love had to be there first.
Yes, exactly,
right?
exactly.
For all of this, like for the discipline to work, the love has to be there first. It has to be like a love sandwich.
Yeah.
So the love is there as the asl. You do a bit of discipline, and then you follow the discipline up with love as well. Because
that's
when you
a key.
discipline a child, whether it's timeout or whatever, we're going to discuss the different techniques. You need to, at the end of it, remind them that you love them. The reason why you did this. Like if I ever put my child in timeout, afterwards I'll always tell them, you know, I love you. But you can't keep scratching, or you can't keep doing this, or you can't keep doing that. Even at that age where they don't fully understand it, they will pick it up.
And you know what's key with that is, because you're talking about that first part, is they can't, you can't expect them. So one time you told him and that's it, he's never going to do it again. No, exactly. Expect that he'll do it 5 minutes later and you're going to say the same thing 5 minutes later. Be repetitive, that's fine. Yeah, it's a muscle. He's just working on the muscle, and as long as at the end of it, but I still love you, whatever. And then as they get older, it needs to be like, for example, my eldest, which is like 11, that now needs to be, it's very important, because that comes back to the parents who we could say who have like made the mistakes throughout this whole time, because they're probably watching and thinking, is it too late?
It's never too late.
It's never too late, because now you can come back and say, listen, this is why we've done this. Yeah, for this reason, like at the end of everything. So maybe before you just used to shout only, and that's what he knows you as. Now suddenly you say, after you shout and do whatever, you come back and say, come back. Okay, I shouted because X, Y, Z. It might be wrong, or I'm sorry, or whatever it is. I was feeling like this, and then this is why I said it. Whatever. And kids are super forgiving, and subhanallah, even to the worst of parents.
Very malleable.
Wallah, like subhanallah, kids, they have so much mercy. Yeah. And it puts you to shame. And then the next time you feel like, no, I'm not going to do that. And the bottom line is also for kids, young and old, they are kids. Like literally, why are we trying to mold robots? Yeah, they shouldn't be perfect. That is what makes them perfect.
They're exploring.
Exactly.
They're learning.
Exactly, and
your
that
job
makes
to teach them.
and that makes them intelligent. Asking the silly questions, doing the silly things, climbing the silly walls. As long as it's done in a manner which is respectful, there's love in it, whatever. And these are things they're gonna get from us.
And ultimately, because I find a lot of the times that discipline does come into play, it's usually as a punishment for something that they've harmed or damaged or destroyed. They broke a glass.
Property, yeah.
They poured juice on a carpet, or they did it. These things are replaceable.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
so easy.
Exactly.
Like when you really deep it, is it that bad?
Yeah.
And if they were learning how to hold a glass properly or whatnot, and they made a mistake while doing it, let them hold another one. Don't enable them don't set them up for failure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to be conscious and aware that they're learning. And it's your job to, within a safe environment, enable them to carry on learning from their mistakes.
Yeah.
Whether that's pouring juice into a cup and they spill a little bit here and there, they're going to get better. They're going to get next time. Obviously, you don't want to waste food or drink or anything like that. But at the same time, you just got to be a little bit conscious. And I think, as you said, these are kind of, this is the mindset. The mindset that you need to have. There was something that Jordan Peterson, obviously we don't agree with everything that he says and some of his positions that he mentions, stuff like that. But one line that I remember seeing that he mentioned was, don't allow your children to do things that will cause you to dislike them.
Yes. She talks a lot about that.
And it just goes back to what I said, which is, you are the one that sets up the room before they get in. So if you know that them touching your laptop, or, one time I came, I heard a clunk, I walk into the room, my laptop's on the floor. My laptop, this is what I do all my work.
Exactly.
£4,000.
Subhanallah.
In the moment, I got so angry. But then, alhamdulillah, again, this comes with time and experience. Almost immediately, I realized I'm an idiot. Why did I put it in my room and lock the door?
Yeah.
Why did I leave it on the sofa? In my mind, I'm going to quickly go out. They're in the other room. They're not going to know. I'm going to quickly go to the bathroom, quickly use the bathroom and come out. But no, all it takes is 2-3 minutes. From one room to another room. It's your L. And you have to, again, take that ownership.
And you know, when you show that, especially with property and things like this, when you show them that it's not that deep, then that also instills in them this is just all dunya matters, because if you tell them, oh my God, I just bought this for $1,000 and you're instilling something negative also,
this is more valuable than me.
Exactly. And look, the dunya things are valuable. Slowly you need to show them that, because at the beginning they might, oh wow, I like this, or I want these shoes, I want this, whatever. You need to show them that yes, these things might be nice and whatever, but that's not the important thing. You're important. These values are important. Integrity is important. But you have to show them that by your actions.
What's the science behind timeout? Does timeout work? Taking them, for example, putting them into a playpen or in a corner, naughty step?
Yeah, no, absolutely works. So again, the science is, it's very similar to what I touched on earlier. A lot of it's about shrinking the world. Yeah, because their emotions correlate with the space that they've got and the freedom that they've got. So when you start taking away certain freedoms from them, setting time limits, setting smaller spaces for them, that then it actually collapses the emotion around them. It gives you an opportunity to actually speak to them properly, to guide them through why they've done what they've done. And again, part of it may not. Science is an odd thing. Science is about observation. We can't always explain what we're seeing, but we can describe what we're seeing. Yeah, so we see this again and again in children. A lot of it's developmental, their brains are still developing, so they start still trying to figure out what is right and wrong. When you're looking at kids, one of the things you got to realize, especially at that age, is that they don't understand the world like you understand it. This is the key factor.
Even the concept of time, which I've heard that they don't know the concept of time when you say,
to them, 60 seconds is a long time, bro. It's a long time. There's exercise you can do. It's quite an eye-opening exercise, and I recommend all the viewers to try it as well. Spend 20 minutes just sat on the room on your own, not even on the sofa, on the floor, nothing around, no books, no iPad, just 20 minutes, just try it. Time yourself. You will be surprised how long 20 minutes is. So, a lot of these health gurus, they actually develop this and they go further and further with it. And there's one guy, he's been doing it for 15 years, he's got to an hour without distracting himself. Just sitting with nothing. And I said, it took him 15 years to get to an hour. Trust me, try the 20 minutes. It will be a game changer for you. And it relates back to how your child perceives time. So their perception of things around them is very different to your perception, emotionally, intellectually. Don't get me wrong, some kids are very intellectual. I firmly believe that kids have can develop a level of malice when they're young. This is why we see some kids can be very, very mean, but they just don't simply have the means to carry out their intentions. So one thing with children, especially very young children, bear this in mind. What I will say is I like this whole concept where you mentioned about starting from the love point and working backwards. One thing we've not actually got around to discussing yet is the prophetic element in all of this. Rasulullah was the best father, so the best disciplinarian, I would say as well. And I love this.
And he never physically hit
not once, ever. Not on a single occasion. Never raised his hand to a man or a woman or a child ever. There was one really interesting story that I hear again and again. It's a lovely hadith where the story of, and it's a very famous hadith where Hassan and Hussein on whom they came to the masjid. They were children. They started playing on the Prophet, climbing on top of him, climbing underneath him. Now you've got to look at this in a bit more depth. Oftentimes you look at it from a very scholarly perspective, which is nice from Islamic perspective, but add a few more layers to this. One, add a social layer to it. The Prophet is essentially his place of work. He's a leader. Yeah, every man here is supposed to respect him, look up to him, and he's setting the example. And it's his place of work. It's a masjid, essentially. Yeah, this is where he runs everything from. Yeah, and he's at the most important time of the day. He's leading salah. This is the most important thing that he does in that day. And all his, I suppose, companions are there. His colleagues, his employees, the people that follow him are all there. Yeah, they're all there. Imagine, we're right now on this podcast. The kids walk in. And one sits over there, one sits over here, starts messing about. And they're not just sitting, they're messing about. They're trying to physically distract us. How would our emotional response be? Yeah? So this is, and the Prophet isn't doing something little, bro. He's been sent to lead mankind. This is his job, the most important job that we can possibly imagine. So we can't even say our jobs are a bit more vital or the more critical. Or
exactly.
He's got the most important job. One of the narrations I heard was when the companions were near the Prophet ﷺ, they could hear the physical beat of his heart. Because of the pressure. They described it was like a kettle hissing, a water boiling, they described it as water boiling. So imagine the physical pressure the Prophet was under, that they could hear this, So we can't imagine the mental pressure. But khair, this is his job. They've come in, they're climbing on top of him, they're playing underneath him. What is he doing? Not only is he not admonishing them, he's facilitating them. The companions say he made the ruku longer.
Yeah, he extended.
He extended the sujood. Yeah, he's facilitating them playing. And what age were they? They were at that tender young age of 3-4 years old. So he's recognized that this is a very important stage in their life. How I'm going to deal with them now will dictate how they're going to be later on. Yeah. And he's even not neglected, but he's understood that he knows where he is. He's the Prophet ﷺ. Yeah, but how has he responded? He's facilitated that. It comes from this whole love thing. He's going back from the point of love. These are my grandchildren, these are how I want them to, he used to say it, Hassan is Ali's son, Hussein is my son. He has so much love for these kids, So he's tracking back from the point of love. And if there's any example that we need and we should take from, is that example. No. Our kids, they will misbehave because they're kids and they don't understand the world we do. But how we respond to them and how we deal with them in that moment has a profound impact on the next step in their life. Profound impact.
So what specific techniques would you recommend for parents
in that situation,
children of those ages, in order to, so one that we mentioned, for example, is timeout.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't think timeout should be called naughty corner or naughty step, because then again, you've added a label to it, which is what you said earlier, right? Then they're going to, I'm naughty, that's why I'm here.
Exactly.
But timeout is...
Yeah, I mean, first I think set boundaries on what we call actual misbehaving. That's the first thing. For example, if you facilitated them causing a mess, that's on you. Yeah. So you can't then make them responsible for that. When we're talking about actual misbehaving, things that are really detrimental. For example, some kids they lash out a lot, physical misbehavior, or some kids will damage things for attention seeking. They will literally physically damage things for attention seeking. These are things that I would say that need to start being dealt with, especially at a young age.
But even with that though, if the only time your child gets your attention is because they've damaged something and you come running and go, well, what have you done?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And outside of that, you're just busy on your phone, scrolling on this.
So when I say dealt with, I mean in the immediate. So for example, things like using the timeout or some other method, and in the long term as well. Because we can't see this repeated behavior again and again. And at that age, those things that we consider misbehaving are very little. There's very few. So you have to be very conscious as a parent as what you're labeling as misbehaving. Because some of them can be kids' strength. I'll give you a primary example. So my child's in nursery, Faris, the guy climbs. He's like a monkey, man. He climbs on everything. And he was really good. So I get a call, Mr. Khan, you need to come in. He's about 4 years old. We put him in a nursery at that age. It was in like an Islamic nursery. You know, we were bought into the whole concept of it. And you need to come in, Mr. Khan, you know, we talked about Faris. I've gone in thinking, oh, this guy, man, what's he done? Hope he's not like me. You know, I'm like, and she goes, he's climbing on everything. He climbed over the safety gate. I said, wow, I'm sick. I'm like, how has he even managed that?
He's been in the military.
Yeah, bro. He climbed I'm like excited. And he's gone into the kitchen, he's climbed to the counters. And then, that is a bit dangerous. So he goes, you know, we need to find ways to manage this. So, you know, it's getting too much now. So I said, but why are you trying to suffocate that? She goes, what do you mean? I said, there's a climbing frame just there outside. Like, it's on your playground. It's a really good climbing frame. Like, I want to climb with that climbing frame. Plan a few more, like, sessions on it. He could be an amazing climber. He might become, like, a world champion climber. I don't know what they are, but world champion climber. Why are you suffocating this ability? Yeah,
that
you're seeing it.
Is not it's not
yeah, it's not
wrong.
It's
not misbehaving.
I'm thinking you're a nursery who is upbringing my child, who's meant to be guiding my child. You know, you guys are meant to be experts on child behavior and, you know, teaching children. And you can't see this concept that my son is a climber. He's not really he's not doing it maliciously. He's not doing it because he's trying to cause a problem. He just enjoys climbing. So take him on the playground. Exploring. Yeah, I would say just let him out on the playground. Just watch him from the window. Like, if he can climb, he can climb. You know, and this is the issue. Sometimes we misview our perspective of what is misbehavior needs to be the first thing we look at. Then in terms of managing things like, yes, timeout is a good one because it's a calm, gentle way of doing it. Other things you can do is give them options. Give your child options. So don't just say to them, I'm going to punish you. Say, look, what you're doing here, for example, with your food, you're chucking food across the table. I have a big issue with food. Like, kids have to eat properly from a young age. Yeah. You know, all this messy play, do as much messy play as you want, but this is a ni'mah of Allah. You're going to learn this really bad habit from a young age, then later on it's going to become very, very unhealthy. We see so many eating disorders because of very early on how food was managed. And this is part of it. How they actually eat food with their hands, how much of it they waste, how much they play with. Very bad habit. So, and I even put timers on for my kids to say, look, it's eating time now. We've got half an hour. Eat your food. This is the time to eat food now. You can converse, you can talk to whatever you want, but I don't want to be here in half an hour and you guys are still just chilling and the food's gone cold. That's not okay. A lot of parents let this habit happen. Oh, she's a slow eater. He's a slow eater. You wouldn't say, like, he's a slow reader. You know, you wouldn't say, you know, you'd put pressure on it. You'd help them. You know, if they're eating slowly, why? What's causing them to eat slowly? What's making them bored with the food? You talk about it, discuss it, and then show them healthy habits of eating. And you have this issue with eating. So, you know, when they're throwing food across the table, for example, that for me is a good opportunity now you've put a rule in place. They've circumvented this rule. They've broken this rule. And what do? Timeout is a very good opportunity here. So timeout, tell them why you're doing it. Very important. Yeah. I am now going to take you and put you in the timeout area for 1 minute, for 60 seconds. The reason I'm doing it is because of X, Y, and Z. Don't go down the route of, do you know why I'm going to do this now? Or why are you messing about? Or why are you doing that food? No. Just tell them you knew the rules. I'm going to take you and say, and this is also important. The first few times you do it, sit with them. Don't just leave them and walk off.
That's same abandonment thing.
Yeah. Do not just leave them and walk off. Yeah. I'm here for you. Don't worry. Yeah, but you're going to do this time. Yeah. You've done the crime, you're going to do the time. You know, like, kids are this clever, yeah? My nephew is insane, bro. Him always hitting his brother. His brother used to bite him, used to hit his brother. So they were similar age, you know, like in a big age difference. Did the timeout thing with him. But what happened was he realized that, okay, he really wants to hit his brother. Is it worth 60-second timeout? Yeah, it's worth it. Slap. And then he's like, I'm just going to go to the timeout area. Yeah. And I'm like,
don't worry, you don't need to tell me.
Yeah, I'm like,
he walks there himself.
I'm like, this is like, he's just
sounds like British prisons.
Yeah, I'm like,
he's not a deterrent anymore.
So you have to be very careful when you're using this method as well.
It could,
it could absolutely go the other way. And there's other things as well. Like, I mean, timeout's an example, is a general principle. There's so many other things that you can do. I mean, taking away privileges, but again, explaining to them what are these privileges. Our kids don't know what privilege is. They think they're born with iPads.
Sorry.
You know, they literally think that. They think they're born with the right to just take your phone off you and just watch your phone. You know, so they need to understand what privilege is and what's not a privilege. Now, some parents are going to think I'm crazy for this. One of my children, I'm not going to name who, loves food. Like, food's the thing.
Don't tell me you starved them.
Bro, honestly, man, like, I didn't starve him, I was starving. Kids never starve. You know, kids wallahi never starve, bro. I've never ever met, in our world, bro, I've never seen a starving kid. Our kids probably, alhamdulillah, bro, probably couldn't eat for a week and still be very healthy.
Exactly.
Bro. Alhamdulillah, we're so fortunate when it comes to food. So when these mums complain, bro, oh, they're not eating, I'm like, listen, calm down, man. These kids will eat. Trust me. So, proper foodie, man. Like, he makes the dishes that I used to make when I was younger, yeah, and then he'll feed them to me. Like, we enjoy eating. That's our connection, bro. We love eating together. So with him, when he misbehaves, what I will do is I will restrict his food, and that has the biggest impact on him. Because he needs to anyway to a certain extent. I do it in a way where he understands why I'm doing it. Like I put him on water and bread for a day. Change the kid forever. This is a different kid now, you know? And because he just loves his food, this is the one that he can deal with everything else. Take away his iPad, take away his MMA classes. He probably enjoys that. You know, send him to his room. You know, all these other, he could take. I went to Lines. I used to start doing Lines. I do Lines quite a lot, by the way, with the kids. It works.
Lines as in
Lines. Yeah. It's a very disciplined way of doing things. Very military way of do things, but it works. You know, and it helps them appreciate their time as well. Again, you have to explain all this to them. You can't just do it and expect them to understand. Kids need to be told why you're doing what you're doing. So yeah, the food thing. You throw bread and water for a day. The next day is a different kid. You know? So you have to really find what works for you, especially at the younger ages. As they get older, you then start relating it to the real world. This is the important part. And this is where finances can come into it as well. So I bring a lot of financial penalties into the house. You know, it hits them where it hurts them where it hurts. Yeah, because kids understand finances, oddly enough, very, very early years. They know what £1 is, what £20 noise, what £10. They know this. So you can use this very much to your advantage. It's your finances anyway. It's not like they're going out earning their own money. Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's what difference does it make? Yeah, you're saving yourself. But it's a very, very good way of getting them to attach the healthy discipline that they're getting at home to how discipline works in the real life. You know, you speeding down the road, you're gonna get a 600 fine. Like that link, that neural link has been made when they're a young kid. So they will very much be a good citizen in that sense. You know, so financial penalties definitely work. Be very careful of working with devices. Yeah, first thing first, don't make them dependent on devices. Yeah,
absolutely.
Don't make them dependent. That's the first thing. But this whole concept of where we take devices away from them. Now, we've seen the back end of this. So they've done studies on this. Where they've taken kids who have been disciplined with devices. And what they found was, very odd study, was kids, when they got the devices back, developed even unhealthier attachments to devices. So what they started doing was things like, and again, we're in a very uncontrolled realm here. So one kid, what he did was he was told by his phone's taken off him. He had an Apple Watch as well. And then through that action, he figured out how to access messages in Apple Watch. Yeah, and then he found out when his watch was taken away from him, how to access the same messages on his computer through the iMessage thing. See, so they are now finding more and more loopholes. Yeah, so you have to be very careful and know what you're taking away and why you're taking away. Strategy is very important at this stage. Sure. Yeah, very, very important. But again, it's all the scaffolding around it. It might take a disappointed look, you know, at that age. It's all it takes. The scaffolding's done properly. A young age specifically, work on this timeout thing really works very well. Financial penalties work really well. Explaining is the key. As they get older, relate it to the real world.
What were your thoughts on that, or would you like to move to the sort of 7 to 14? Yeah.
No, so one point on the smaller age groups, like what I think have found, especially in my family, going from people my age and so forth, the children who were quote unquote, we don't want to say naughty, but who were very active and causing a lot of mess in the house, etc., at a young age, tend to be the calmer ones when they grow up. So in that smaller age group, like, give them as much freedom as possible to learn and explore and
let the energy out.
Let the energy out while you're making sure that things are being done safely. You can guide them. For example, my daughter Aisha, she loved playing with Lego, and a lot of times she would just throw them on the floor, run, step on them, hurt herself. So at the end, it was, okay, how do we teach her to get the Lego out, play with it, afterwards pack it away and put it away? And
how do you teach them that, bro? How do you teach them that? That's a real question.
So how we did it was, okay, one, I said, well, number one rule, if you want to use it and you want to play with it, you must be able to put it back. If you don't put it back, you can't use it. Number two,
did that work?
It worked. It worked.
Sorry, I'm interrupting, guys, but this is vital to me because we play with our Lego. Yeah. I'm struggling with this. I do this, and then they because I want to play with the Lego as well. So we're all playing, and then they don't put it back.
No. So for example, what I did was, on the first day when I told her, okay, you must put it back, and she didn't, I collected it all, and I've put it on top of the cupboard.
Can't reach it anymore.
She can't reach it anymore. I was like, Dad, I said, well, Lego is on timeout.
Okay.
Because you didn't clear up. They're literally the next day when she got it back, she finished, packed it away.
This is one thing that I remember hearing about in a video where they said privileges should be earned the day before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, if they do what they're supposed to do on on this day, they've earned whether it's a device, which I don't recommend, or toy, Lego, whatever it is, for the next day you've earned it now.
Yeah, nice.
On that day, if you act up or whatever, you still get it because you earned it yesterday, but you're not getting it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then eventually they pick up.
We use charts a lot. We use the sticker charts a lot. That worked really well with the kids. But I like this. I'm going to try this thing with the Lego.
Yeah, 100%. So for that age group, it's more let them explore, guide, introduce very small kind of boundaries and rules. But then the next age group, kind of the 4 to 7s, this is where you need to be a little bit more firm because you are, after the age of 7, you kind of reach the friendship. You're going into the side of the friendship side and teaching. So at this age, what I was doing with the kids is they had to earn everything.
Yeah.
Okay, Dad, I'm going to take them out, guaranteed anyways. But if I'm going to take you out on Saturday, if you want to go and play football, if you want to go to the park, you have to do this. You have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They had a list of like a point system where, okay, if you brush your teeth on time, if you go to bed on time, if you do X, Y, Z, you earn this many points and your reward is you can go out, you can get whatever you want. So one, the rewards, the privileges worked. And secondly, especially for the boys, maybe I just have a soft spot for my daughters, but for the boys, from the age of 4 onwards, I was talking to my son, Abdullah, as though he's a grown man.
Yeah.
So I would say, is that what a man does? Do you see me doing that, Abdullah? Why have you, why would you go on and hit your sister? Do you see me hit your mom? No. So where did this come from? I'm sorry, Dad. So it's make sure, like Salah, for example, like it was, even though from 7 you tell them to pray and then 10 you discipline them on that, it was, if you're not praying, then you're not having any of your fun times. You're not going to watch TV for the hour that you get a normal day. So at that age, I would say be very strict, but in a
one more thing, sorry, that I just remembered before we move on to the older ages is at those ages, sometimes there are external factors that are causing the behavior that, for example, if they're overtired, they might be a little bit more bratty, a little bit more this, that, but it's not because something innately that they're doing. It's just because maybe you just didn't facilitate their nap or sleep time, or you gave them overly processed sugary foods and made them now hyperactive. Again, ownership, man. All this comes back down to these are children. As I believe it was Ali Radhiyallahu anhu who said, from 0 to 7, you play with them. 8 to 14, you teach them, and after that, you become their friend, right? 15 to 21. So in these like groups of 7, so the asl in the early stages, play, fun. Like, there aren't meant to be too many rules. Yes, you have to start laying the bricks, the foundations for the next step. But the asl should be, this is a fun time. We're here to have fun. As you said, I remember one time you said, they spilt water into the food. And you took, let's take a learning opportunity. What food floats, what food doesn't float.
I remember that.
Rather than going crazy and saying, what have you done? And this is the food. And just take a step back, relax. Look, how can we turn this into something fun? That's something I always try to do now. Like if something ever happens, I always try to think, how can I make this into something, as I said, a learning curve. And one last thing I'll mention, this kind of, I guess, applies all the way through, but I'll mention it here in the early stages one, which is what you mentioned that day when I told you the story regarding when Yusuf said something and I said to him, you're not going to go swimming. But then in the end, I did let him go swimming. You said, always follow through.
Always follow through.
Whenever you follow through, and don't make a threat that you're not going to folloh through. Don't say to your kid, I'm going to break your legs if you do that, because you're not going to break their legs.
He knows as well.
Yeah, I mean, either then you have to break their legs, which obviously we don't recommend. It's illegal, it's haram, it's harmful.
I hear these physical threats all the time. It really gets on a different side of me, because I say, like, when that child gets older and he's now threatening or she's now threatening other people, and then you're wondering how my child... I said, like, the language we use around our children is so important.
They're sponges.
I don't even like using slang around my kids. Because I want them. I will say to my children, the most powerful tool or the most powerful weapon in your arsenal is your vernacular. Speak well, and we're teaching them to speak. We're literally, how do kids pick up accents? What kids that live here, they've been born here and they've got like Scouse accents. Yeah. And they've got like Manc accents. They were born and bred, they were born here, went to school here. But it's because from their parents. This parents are still speaking English to them and they pick up these accents. So the way we speak to our kids is so important.
And I think with going from the speaking thing, the way we communicating with the kids and how we're communicating. So if your communication is more of order, do this, don't do this, don't do this, I find that doesn't often work. Whereas if it's coaching, it's more, well, if you do this, this happens.
You frame it positively.
Like, we were talking about the questioning, like avoid using why, always, how, when, what. And that makes them think. Often, a lot of times, the way I communicate with the children is they would ask me a question and I answer it with another question, because I would rather they develop the pathways to think of certain things rather than just give them the answer. Because tomorrow, there's just always be a dependent children who get everything they want.
I do this when I'm distracting the kids. When I'm a bit busy, like they'll ask a question, I'll give them another question. But
go figure that out.
Go figure that out. Yeah.
No, but it does, because if they're able to critically think, definitely. And for example, I would Abbas, he wanted something. I said, what benefit are you going to get from this? And he got to figure it out, and then he just walked away. He said, okay, leave it, forget about this.
I sometimes ask this question, like my oldest, or any of them will ask me a question. I say, if I give you the answer, how is that going to help you? And if you can't give me an answer to that, then don't ask it. So if it's not beneficial, they ask me, like, how long are you going to be? This is the famous question when I'm leaving the house. I said, I don't know. It should stop there because I don't know. Like, but where are you going? And I said, how is it going to help you? It's not going to help you. Let's cut it here.
Is this children or we talk about wives now?
Yeah. I think they pick it up.
Podcast.
They pick it up from the wife.
It's like, with kids, you got to do it. It's like in the army, you have phase 1. You have phase 1 training. You sometimes you have phase 2 training. And then they say, okay, now this is the classified or the qualified soldier, we can use him now for whatever purpose we're using him for. Kids are very similar in that sense. They're in a very training phase. That phase 1 training, where you can't expect anything of them. You just teach them. You just let them do what they got to do. They're going to make so many mistakes. They're going to mess up so many times. You're going to mess up teaching them. You still can't expect what you're thinking. They're not finished yet. Then they have phase 2 training. It's older training. You want. They might have stresses now. Their emotions have suddenly developed. Now they're thinking about things that they weren't thinking about previously. Kids aren't worried about putting food on the table. Kids aren't even worried about how they look. Kids will wear whatever they want to do, and they'll go out of the house, they'll mess about, they'll play in the sand, play in the mud, be covered in muck, come inside, eat food with the same dirty hands, and then go to bed. That's what they're okay. They're happy with that. As they get older, they develop a sense of style. You need to be a bit cleaner. I'm going to be on my friends. My friends have got these clothes. I've got to have these clothes. They suddenly start developing now in social economic skills as well. Have I got enough money? Why have I not got an allowance? Can I get some spending money? I want to go to the shop by myself. They are still developing. Eventually they'll get to a point where the adult that you are expecting is there. But in that whole developmental phase, you're just teaching them,
A question that comes to my head, and I see this quite a lot more recently, is so you have a child, let's say 8 years old. They don't want to be doing something. And sometimes I think to myself, because I'm self-reflecting, I think to myself, is it because of me and the way I behave with them? So, like my stepson Abbas, most of the time when he doesn't want to do something, my tummy hurts. Because, and I'm thinking to myself, is it because he knows we will just say, okay, you don't need to go to school, or is it genuinely because he's fearing something in school and he's being bullied, and
or is he actually,
or his tummy does actually hurt?
And initially, we would take him to the hospital. There's nothing wrong with him. Would speak to the school. Is he being bullied? Is this happening? No, there isn't.
He's the bully out.
And then and then you're thinking, okay, so is it because he's like in his head, it's been programmed that if he shows vulnerability, he gets what he wants.
He could be testing his boundary. That's also a sign of like intellect. Because now he's trying to. I don't want to say like manipulate is maybe a strong word, but it's essentially using his skills to say, you know what, if I do that usually works. And 1 + 1, like I often tell Yassine, I see things that he's doing, so he's asking these like tertiary questions because I know he wants to ask something else. He wants to play whatever, but he's asking these indirect questions. So I don't stop him. After he's finished, I say, Yassine, I know what you're trying to do. Yeah, I'm already ahead. I'm already there. Yeah. But I said to him, I like that you're trying to do that. It's nice that you're trying to do that, because then that shows me that you're using your mind.
It could be this, because something he also does is when he really wants something, he would go and do something and clearly show you to say, okay, look, I'm doing something very good. And then you just know something.
Because he knows you. That's the thing. And that's a super intelligent thing to do.
But one thing that I feel like you have to do as well, that supplements all of this, is to really emphasize and drill into them the importance of integrity and how to be, because integrity will prevent them from lying or from deceiving to achieve these goals. And you can still achieve a goal with truth. Like, I'll give you an example. Yeah, this blew my mind recently. Yeah, like, you don't realize how smart children are. Yeah? So I think we must have been reading a book. There's this book. It was about a lion and a mouse or something, and there was a picture of a praying mantis, set in the jungle or whatever. So I remember he asked me, he goes, "What's that?" Like, he's never seen this bug before, right? It's not a cockroach. It's just weird looking, So I said, it's a praying mantis. What's that? I said, you know what? Let me show you a video of it. Because sometimes, every now and again, I'll show him a little video of something that he asks me about. So I pull out a video of a praying mantis, and it grabs a wasp, starts sucking the brains out of the wasp and this and that. And he's like, wow. That's
gross.
Yeah, he's like, wow. Like, praying mantis? That's crazy. So then one day, I can't remember, like a few days later, maybe even a week later, I can't remember how it came up in conversation. But he mentioned praying mantis or something. So I asked, you know what? Let me test him. So I asked him, I said, oh, remember, we saw it in your book. He was like, yeah. I said, remember I said to you that I was going to show you, I think he asked me if he could see a video of it. So I said, oh yeah, remember I was supposed to show you from your book. Did I show you or not? Like, so now I'm trying to see, is he going to say, no, you didn't show me, because he knows that will result in me showing him? Or is he going to say, yes, you did show me, and then I don't show him? Because one thing I've drilled into him, I don't show you, you can't use the phone like unnecessarily. Right? If you've already seen it, like, so he asked me, oh, can I see that video again? I'll say, no. You've already seen it once, I've showed it to you, you don't need to see it again. So now I'm testing him, I'm trying to figure out, is he going to be truthful and potentially lose it? So he goes to me, and I said to him, just think very carefully, did I show you or did I not show you? So I can literally see the cogs turning in his brain. Yeah. The kid's four
risk and reward. Yeah.
Risk and reward. He's trying to assess it. He goes, you did show me, but I forgot. When he said that to me, I was like, that's
negotiation skills.
This is next level,
like,
man.
I need to see it again.
He ticked both boxes.
He ticked both boxes. He's told the truth, but now he's also facilitated.
I forgot how it looked.
I forgot and I forgot. It's not necessarily a lie, because he could have forgotten a specific part of the video or something that he wants to see. And that's really important. That's something that I've drilled into him. Is, look, if you told me the truth, I won't get upset with you. But if you lie to me, I will be extremely upset. I'll be disappointed in you. And there's nothing you can ever tell me that's the truth that will make me mad.
Exactly.
Because I'll be happy at the fact that you came and told me the truth. So I think that's something that's really important to instill.
I like that you touched on this, because, recently there was something on, the brother, he said something on a podcast. It was like a quick reaction, like a knee-jerk reaction, yeah? But I always ask brothers this, yeah? I say, look, it's all good. Yeah, I'm there, I'm the best dad and da-da-da. But that's when the going's nice. But what about when the going gets tough? Yeah. And we're Muslim. Islam doesn't teach us all of these, cutting the rahim and all the ties and all of these things. And it's like, I liked what happened there, because obviously he came back and said, like, it was just like, it was, it wasn't an Islamic thing or whatever. But why I say that is because I often think about, like, worst case scenarios. Yeah,
you should.
Yeah, because when you think of worst case scenarios, everything else becomes nothing.
And it prepares you in case it ever does come. You've already done some of the thoughts. You've already done some of the grieving, even, bro.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, for me, at the end of the day, it's all about framing it. How do you frame it? As I said, this is not. He doesn't belong to me. Yeah, this is something that Allah's given me. And it's not just He's given me as a bouquet of flowers, to smell it and it's nice and that's it. This is going to have challenges. The whole point of it is that, the fitna of it. So when a challenge comes, I can't just say, okay, I quit, put that back. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. So we have to, if we have that, as you said, the scaffolding and the framing and the love and all of these things in the beginning or in the early years, then later on when there are challenges, because it might be external, it might just be following fashion or whatever it is, I'm not just going to come and say, oh, khalas, I'm going to disown him, kill him, this, that. No.
You know what? You know when this applies really very kind of acutely is when you have stepchildren. Because with your own kids, you tend to have this scaffolding. You built it. You've been day one. Like when you step into a family, and these are brothers that are getting second wives, third wives, especially sisters who have got kids already, doesn't mean you abandon them. It just means you learn the right techniques. You know, marrying a lady that has children, alhamdulillah, Rasulullah himself did this. You know, so it's encouraged in that sense. But at the same time, don't step into it blindly. Don't step into it thinking, okay, these kids are going to be the same as my kids are with me. I literally went through that with my stepdaughter. You know, she was 20. You know, and I'd been arguing with her mum back and forth about the whole thing privately. That look, you know, we need to help her. We need to help Malak. You know, she's struggling. She left Islam, remember I told you, and she was going on this really unhealthy emo, goth kind of look, and really bad, you know, friendship circle, and nutrition was going down the toilet, and you know, sleep not there, and everything was just decaying around her, and it was really breaking my heart. You know, it was really worrying me because you know I took this family on as my family. Exactly. So when I looked at her, I saw or in her, I saw. What my daughter was growing up to be. So, you know, I very much said, you know, and the first time she called me dad, it just took me away, you know, it changed me to the core, you know, because I was like, wow, you know, and you think to yourself, how do you help this person? When this whole thing came about, my whole agenda was then not, oh my God, can't believe it was how do we help our child, you know, and it's so hard at that stage, so difficult, you know. One of the things, I don't know if we're going to touch on this, but I think it's so important, is there are parents out there right now that have made all the mistakes, that have hit their kids, that have shouted at them too much and destroyed those relationships to a certain extent. What can you do to reverse that? Because we're all well and good, alhamdulillah, you know. We have been very fortunate, very blessed, whether it's with the right mentors, with the right mizaj and the right fitrah to bring up our kids in a specific way. Many parents haven't been like that. Many parents have had their own traumatic backgrounds and then passed on those traumas to their kids, whether through hitting their kids, shouting at them too much, being tyrannical to them, you know, being unfair with them, even to the point of making life decisions for them that have destroyed their lives. You know, this whole arranged marriage thing we see time and time again. These are parents making really bad decisions for their kids. As an example, there's so many others. So what can we do to change that, to reverse it? If you're still at a stage in life, you guys don't mind me addressing this. If you,
no,
like, I'm not a bit of a tangent.
I think this is a really good.
I think it's just been my, you know, a splinter in my mind. If they're still very young, you are very, very fortunate. They're still very manable. They're still very elastic. The neuroplasticity is there. You can change it around completely. Yeah, you can literally change that relationship. After a certain stage, we're usually talking about 8-9 years of age, where their intellect is really kicking in now. The brain's getting far more developed and they're really picking up on certain emotions. It becomes very difficult. At this stage, it becomes almost a salvage operation. You may not be able, damage control. You may not be able to regain that relationship that you should have had from day one. But it doesn't mean you can't go on and develop a healthier relationship. You have to reset the boundaries, reset those edges, reset the hierarchy, really change yourself as a person. This is key. You have to become the impressive guy. I remember with my oldest stepson, he was chaos personified. Wallahi, like, there's no other way to describe it. You know, he was swearing at his mom, jumping on the head teacher. It was like really scary behavior. With him, I had to become the most impressive guy in the room. Yeah, he would listen to me because of that. I literally had a press-up competition with him, just to put him down, you know, like, I'll show you how it's done, kiddo. Like, I became known to his friends as like, oh, that's no stepdad. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, we had a couple of cars, and the e-tron was the one I would always drive when I'm picking him up, so that it just showed him that, you know, the presence. I'd take him to the gym, introduce him to my friends, the MMA guys. It was just a bit awe-inspiring to him. He wanted to join the cadets, and his mum was really keen for him to go into the cadets. I didn't want him to do the cadets. I really don't. I thought, I don't want him to go down this route. But what I did was I let him sign up, because when I took him to the office, and then they read my military jacket, and they were like, oh, so who are you? Like, this Muslim guy with a big beard bringing your stepson, you know, to the cadets. And I said, well, I was in the army. They go, really? What were you in? And then I started explaining my military jacket to them, and they're like, whoa, like, Captain Khan, okay, right. And then they do a bit of research about me, and then they find out. And the next time he comes in, they're like, right, like, they're respecting my stepdad. And suddenly he's in that position. So you need to find, first of all, make yourself that person that can be exemplary to the child. Change your habits. The second thing is you need to have a very frank conversation with them. You need to address those traumas. Closure is so important. If you really if you really wrong them, you know, you've hit them, you've struck them, you know, you've been unfair to them in a certain way, apologize. Let them know you're human as well. let them know you're both going to develop together. Apologize to them. It goes a very, very long way. It really, really does. It gives them a sense of respect back. Oftentimes, kids feel a lack of self-respect because of the way we've treated them. We've put them down so much they don't have that respect. So when you are apologizing to them, it develops self-respect in them. Yeah, and suddenly they reciprocate that.
And you're also teaching them how to behave when they do something wrong.
Yes,
when
absolutely.
they make a mistake, when they realize don't ever double down.
Don't double down.
As soon as you realize what you did was wrong,
apologize. So first thing, become exemplary parents. Second thing, apologize to them. This is for the younger generation. As they get older, now this then becomes a whole different scenario. I would even go as far as saying, forget the parent-child relationship. Try and develop with them a different type of relationship that overall creates a healthy human being. If you keep pressuring this, but I'm their dad and I'm their mom. They're 21. You've abused them their whole life. You've treated them poorly their whole life. You've been a bad parent your whole life. And just because you've had an awakening doesn't mean they're going to have the same thing. Yeah. So now you have to create a different type of relationship. Yeah. Whether it's becoming more friendly with them, business relationship. You'd be surprised how effective that can be. Yeah. I recently spoken to one brother and he was telling me that him and his son went into business is the best thing they ever did. It fixed so many problems that they had as a father and son. Become business partners. I said, subhanAllah. So find another avenue. Find another healthy gym. Become gym buddies. Something as simple as that. Like that changes relationships. So these kind of little things, make a different relationship, but it can be fixed. Yeah, fix that relationship.
Just on what you mentioned regarding the brother, again, for me, one thing it will come back down to in that situation you mentioned about your son coming to you and telling you that, again, accountability, man. You take extreme ownership.
Exactly.
How did you raise them in a country where that's the norm, where that's spread, where that's being taught to them in school?
Force fed.
It says to you, I want to wear a skirt today, and they're a boy. You got to look at yourself. So okay, cool. Why am I in this country? Okay, if you come up with 1,000,001 excuses about why you can't leave, that's a different story. Why are you putting them in school? No one's forcing you. No one's put a gun to your head. You have to put them in school. You can homeschool. It's not easy. But it's also not extremely hard as people think. But the point is, you need to look at what's the most important thing.
What did you do right and what did you do wrong?
What did you do right? And you know what? This concept of extreme ownership and extreme accountability, it goes one step further, which is even in the deen, we're taught our sins affect, not only forget our families. We're told that in Surah Al-Rum, it mentions that evil and corruption has spread throughout the lands because of what the hands of men have done. And the tafsir of this ayah is sins. So our sins affect the ummah as a whole. What's happening in Palestine, our sins. Don't think, if me and you go out today, we listen to music, we go do zina, we do some other haram, may Allah protect us, we're having an effect on the ummah as a whole. If it goes that far out, you think it's not going to affect you in your own house?
Absolutely. That's the first place.
Yeah, Imam Shafi'i, he said, I think he saw the heel of a woman or something in the street or something, and it affected his memory. There was, I think it was Imam Shafi'i as well, or was it someone else who said that if my horse or my riding beast becomes disobedient to me, or even my wife argues with me, or like with my children, I always attribute it back to a sin that I did.
Subhanallah.
So as the father, you need to realize you've got such a big place in that house. If you're not praying your prayers, if you got a mortgage, every single month you're paying into haram. Every single month, the house that your children are living in, the walls, the roof around them is haram. How can you be surprised when problems and
calamities happen?
Calamities happen. You have to take a level of self-accountability, but I find people, this is the hardest thing to do. It's easy to point fingers at other people and this guy's the reason why this is going wrong, and he's the reason for that country doing this and this. But what about the level of self-accountability? Allah does not change the situation of a people until they change themselves. But I feel like this is something that is so lacking.
Missing. Yeah, for sure. This is hugely lacking. And I think, the main thing is some people also feel like they've gone too far. In a way where they have this kind of negative feeling of it's too late for me kind of thing. I see this, it's like it's irredeemable. And that's the one thing that Islam,
as a parent,
in general.
Oh, in general.
Yeah, and it obviously transcends into the home where you feel, for example, like I've been paying the mortgage for 20 years. I've only got 5 years left.
Yeah.
Might as well kind of thing. And I do know that the calamity is just like you get into this negative circle rather than what Islam teaches us. Like optimism is a sunnah, number one. Number two, the rahmah is like key in Islam. There's no such thing as basically, I've gone too far, or I've done too much, or whatever. In Islam, there's always a way.
In fact, it's the opposite.
Like, it's complete opposite.
If you do a mountain of sins, let's just say you spent all that time, riba, getting sins. If you repent, it doesn't get wiped. It gets converted.
Imagine
into good deeds.
Yeah, imagine that.
So it's like that 20 years of sin can be turned into 20 years of good deeds just by repentance.
It's like 20 years of debt turns into 20 years of wealth. Wow.
Like,
but people don't look at it like that. It's like a glass half full and glass, half empty.
If I jump out of it now, I've lost everything.
Exactly.
And what guarantees you're going to live those 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the thing.
I think when it comes to kids, this is something that we need to again bring back to kids in sense of teaching them from a very young age the dependency on Allah. This is something we don't do
100%.
enough. Like, since coming to the UAE, one thing I've inadvertently done without even realizing is leaving so many interest-based systems that you don't even think about really, like from your car insurance to things like, payments that you make that you don't even realize are interest related. Even foods that you buy and eat and all these things. And bro, subhanAllah, like the multiplication in wealth and barakah has been unbelievable. I'm probably the newest member here, I think, in terms of how long have you been here, Akhi?
3
years.
Yeah.
And you've been 3 years and same. So I'm like new here, like I've been here like 10 months.
Yeah.
And bro, it's insane. And what else can you attribute it to is that systems are based like on just halal income. It's you earning your money and making that money work for you in the halal way. You're taking out all these middlemen, financed cars and all of these things. Because even that for me was like I need a car, I need it for work. If I can't get to work, I can't work. And then I need to see patients and it's depending on me. And I need a reliable car and you make 1,000 excuses.
Exactly.
You're trying to make it halal in your head. And then you're inadvertently passing those qualities onto your kids. Because now they're looking for loopholes as well. And then when you're talking about things like, boycotting and BDS and all this, well, we want to do all that. But then, look at the mortgage you're paying for. Yeah, look at yourself
first.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. And it's heartbreaking. There's one uncle. We used to look after him. When we were younger, we looked up to him because in our eyes, he was one of the most successful Somali uncles we've had in the area that we grew up in. Now, may Allah forgive him. And I think he's repented, etc. But because of the kind of businesses that he was involved in, even though he sent his children to Yemen and he sent them to Egypt and he spent so much money, so much investment in teaching them to be upright Muslim children, all of them have gone the complete opposite. And so one day I was told on a second or so, my uncle who's friends with him said to me, he's come and told me, please make sure that you get out of the business, because him and my uncle were kind of doing a similar type of thing. Please get out of this because my children
have become ruined.
Have become this one because of this.
As a reflection of that.
And that uncle of mine had to leave that business that they were in. And it's you don't see it in the moment, but then 5-10 years down the line when the children have gone down.
So you don't need to discipline them. Yeah. When they're in the right environment, you bring them up with the right food, the halal, everything. Kids, they want to be healthy. Kids, their natural disposition of the human being is we want to be healthy. We want to physically be healthy. We want to mentally be healthy. Yeah. That's the natural disposition. So we just got to facilitate that. Feed them halal, talk halal, live halal. These things it's as simple as that. If we need a blueprint for the Muslims listening and the non-Muslims listening alike, if we need a blueprint on how we do anything with our kids, we simply have to revert back to Islam in every aspect, from cleaning and bathing to eating and drinking to finances to our elders and how we talk to them, even like telling us how the physical status of the parents, and one is 3 times more than the other and all. It's outlined so clearly. So, we can talk about neuroscience till the crows come home, but honestly, like if you want a blueprint, if you want to really look at the intricacy and the depth of how to bring up children, whether it's discipline or anything else, you just got to look at the blueprint of Islam. It's done. It's there for us, And
as long as we, as especially the fathers, are living
absolutely
by these principles, the children will follow you.
And fathers more than the mothers.
Yeah.
Because the mother's role is primarily nurturing. Biologically speaking, financially speaking, spiritually speaking, her role isn't diverse. I've mentioned this before. The father's role is very diverse. Depending on the situation you're in, your role changes, adapts. And we must do this. We scaffold the child into the real world. It's our job. It's the only thing. It's one of the things we can do that the mother can't do. Yep. Scaffold the child's entry into the real world. So it means we have to be exemplary. We have to be exemplary.
One last thing we're going to conclude now that I forgot to mention in the don'ts when it comes to children is don't terrify them with stories of monsters that are going to grab them if they don't do this, and at night especially, because it has a big
breeds,
effect,
it breeds a lot of fear.
Like, my wife must have told my son something like wee willy winky, I don't know, some story or something.
Oh yeah.
He's going to climb in, and if you don't go to sleep quickly, he's going to climb, he's going to snatch you from the bed and this and that. And I remember she hadn't said it for years or like a long time. Again, these conversations I'm having. So I asked him one time, I said, what are you scared of? Just out of curiosity, ask him, like, what are you proud of? What are you scared of? He said, wee willy winky.
SubhanAllah.
I said, there's no wee. Like, I had to try and drill it out of him.
Yeah.
Don't use these monsters that are going to come grab you and jinns and this and that, whatnot. And
I think positively frame things like that. Even when my kids, a small thing I'll just add is when my kids used to be like, let's say waking up in a fright, for example. When I go to them, or when my wife would go to them, we consciously would say, you don't need to worry. Allah's watching over you. I don't say, oh, Baba's here, don't worry. Because what if something happens to me tomorrow? He's going to say that protection is gone now. I'm by myself. So it's always like tying it back to Allah's with us. Allah's protecting us. It's not nothing to do with me.
From an early age, get them to understand the concept of Jannah, Jahannam.
Yeah, absolutely.
And discipline will come itself.
Naturally, exactly.
I don't want to do haram because I don't want to end up in Jannah.
They actually did a study on this. And the study was on...
We need to wrap up.
It was superstition. And what they do was they looked at kids, they looked at Santa Claus and Wee Willie Winky and all these kind of characters. One of the things that was discussed heavily was how much kids engage with superstition. Massively. They built fantasy, their imaginations are vast compared to ours. So they will build a reality that's more real to them in fantasy than it is in real life. So that is a perfect opportunity. Islam is filled, for want of a better word, superstition. What I mean by that is talk about the angels, talk about Allah protecting you. These things that are reality. When you pray, Ayatul Kursi, the angels the Sahaba, the companions said we could hear the footsteps of the angels entering our homes when we pray these du'as. So imagine your child's built in nature at that age where they believe it. They're like, the angels are here now, You could really, kids believe in Santa Claus in the 1819, you could really develop these skills at that time.
Jazakallah khair. Sorry, Sheikh.
Okay.
We're over time for quite a few minutes, so we're going to have to conclude it there, inshallah. Hopefully you guys benefit from this episode. Don't worry, there's plenty more to come. Make sure you like the video, share it with other parents that are going to benefit from it also, inshallah. Subscribe to the channel. There's plenty more to come where this came from, inshallah. With that said, subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry, Sheikh.
Make dua for them.
Yeah. Subhanallah, I was deep on that, bro.
The dua.
That was deep on that, bro.
I think the camera was still rolling.
Yes. I think we should put that in.